Chapter 2029. Jinhua, stay out of my business. Zhao Rui frowned slightly and said coldly, you only have one task, and that is to listen to my orders. The cultivator called Jinhua shrugged his shoulders and did not dwell on this matter with Zhao Rui. Instead, he changed the topic and said, rumor has it that the Great Dao Valley not only has the power of the Great Dao, but there are even heavenly immortal laws in the depths. Any sky immortal had sky immortal laws in their bodies. The standard to measure a sky immortal's strength was how many sky immortal laws they had, as well as how thick they were. The power of the Great Dao was only a prelude to sky immortal laws. If one could not convert the power of the Great Dao into sky immortal laws, then no matter how much power they had, they could only be the weakest sky immortal. Such sky immortals were commonly known as false sky immortals, and they were undergoing the false sky immortal major tribulation. Don't act rashly, Zhao Rui said in a low voice. Zhao Rui said in a low voice, as far as I know, the overlords of several mid-sized weaves have sent their elders here. What we need to do is to observe the situation and avoid alerting them. Haha, you are too cautious. Jinhua smiled and said, those elders are almost all people who are about to die. I alone am enough to deal with them. Zhao Rui frowned but did not refute Jinhua. That was because Jinhua was a peerless genius of the Central Divine Dynasty. In the Central Divine Dynasty, he could rank in the top 50. Although Jinhua was only in the top 50, the Central Divine Dynasty was an upper-level domain, and it ruled over tens of millions of mid-sized dominions. Although Jinhua was only an early-stage sky immortal, his strength was so strong that even some of the strongest cultivators in the mid-sized dominions could not compete with him. Don't be careless. Let's keep going. Zhao Rui stomped on the ground and leaped up, continuing to head deeper into the Great Dao Valley. If your strength had recovered to its peak, I might have some scruples, but you can only use 50% of your peak combat strength. How can you escape from me? Jinhua's lips curved up involuntarily as he watched Zhao Rui's disappearing figure. Then, Jinhua tore the void with both hands and burrowed in. At the same time, in another area of the Great Dao Valley, crack, 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 a martial artist clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. It could be seen that this martial artist was furious to the extreme. Immortal blood poison. Yes, this martial artist was none other than Immortal Blood Poison. At this moment, Immortal Xuedu could be said to be extremely depressed. In order to capture Ningyu alive, he had lost an entire team of poison dragon guards and a powerful black-robed cultivator. In fact, even one of his doppelgangers had been killed. Ever since he had descended into the immortal spirit realm, when had Immortal Blood Poison ever suffered such humiliation? Buzz. As Immortal Xuedu was enraged, the void beside him suddenly split open and a martial artist appeared. Immortal Red Bell. Immortal Blood Poison's expression turned extremely unsightly when he saw the martial artist who had suddenly appeared. The reason why Immortal Xuedu had such an expression was because Immortal Hongling came from the Primordial Devil Sect. Hundreds of years ago, he had infiltrated the Primordial Devil Sect and killed a few early heavenly immortal experts from the Primordial Devil Sect. From then on, he was hunted down by the experts of the Primordial Devil Sect. How could he be in a good mood now that Immortal Hongling had appeared? Some time ago, one of your doppelgangers left the Great Dao Valley. Why hasn't he returned? Immortal Hongling looked at Immortal Xuedu with a puzzled expression and asked, what does my business have to do with you? Immortal Xuedu snorted coldly. Do you think I want to interfere in your business? Immortal Hongling pursed her lips and said, I'm here mainly to form an alliance with you. Alliance? Immortal Xuedu was slightly taken aback. He did not know what Immortal Hongling was up to. After all, the opportunities in the Great Dao Valley were limited. Forming an alliance with others meant that he had to share some of the opportunities with others. Immortal Xuedu was confident that he was not weak, so he did not want to form an alliance with others. Sacred Divine Palace, Ancient Demon Sect, Fallen Spirit Sect, Heaven Secret Sect, and a series of other powerful forces have more or less formed an alliance. Immortal Hongling shrugged and said nonchalantly, if you think that you can fight against 2 or even 3 of them, then forget what I said. Swoosh. Hearing Immortal Hongling's words, Immortal Shwedu's face instantly darkened. Although he was very confident in his own strength, he could not fight against so many opponents. The experts who had descended from the mid-level dominions were mostly at the peak of the mid-stage Sky Immortal level. In a one-on-one fight, he was confident that he would have the absolute upper hand. But in a one-on-two fight, he was not absolutely sure. How about it? Think about it. Immortal Hongling had long known that Immortal Shwedu would have such an expression. She raised her eyebrows and said, "To a happy cooperation." How intelligent was Immortal Shwedu? He only thought about it for a second before agreeing to Immortal Hongling's suggestion. In the face of absolute benefits, any hatred could be temporarily dissolved. For the opportunities in the Great Dao Valley, Immortal Shwedu was willing to go all out. To a happy cooperation. The corners of Immortal Hongling's mouth curled up unnaturally. But this curvature disappeared in a flash. Come, let's continue deeper into the Great Dao Valley. Immortal Shwedu did not seem to notice the movement of Immortal Hongling's lips. He leaped up and charged straight into the depths of the Great Dao Valley. Swish! Immortal Hongling followed closely behind Immortal Shwedu whoosh. At the same time, the void in front of the Great Dao Valley suddenly split open, and several warriors appeared. This is the Great Dao Valley. Ningyu frowned as he looked at the narrow passageway between the two mountains. Although the strength of Ningyu's group was not at the peak, they were not weak either. Among them, Human Demon was at the mid-stage Sky Immortal level. Five-Fingered Immortal had also recovered his strength to the early stage Sky Immortal level. However, he was now under Ningyu's control. After the Dark Sovereign devoured the black-robed warrior, his combat strength had soared to the point where he could fight against a warrior with 10 great Dao powers. As for Ninglu, he had devoured and refined more than 1,000 types of poisons from Immortal Shwedu. His current strength could fight against an expert with 2 Sky Immortal laws. The 8-legged demon's strength did not increase. It still had 8 Sky Immortal laws. Finally, Ningyu could now use 25% of the Origin Creation Divine Staff's power. His strength was already infinitely close to the late-stage Sky Immortal level. It could be said that among Ningyu's group, Ningyu was the strongest. That's right. This is the Great Dao Valley. The 8-legged demon clearly had some understanding of the Great Dao Valley. He took a step forward and explained, the first half of the Great Dao Valley is relatively narrow, but as you go deeper, the space will become wider. Chapter 2030. Ningyu fell into deep thought. The path in front of the Great Dao Valley was very narrow. If they encountered a strong enemy inside, it was very likely that they would encounter a huge battle. At this time, the relatively weak Dark Emperor and Ninglu would most likely become a burden. With that in mind, Ningyu said, "Dark Emperor, Ninglu, you two go into the storage ring first." The strength of the Dark Emperor and Ninglu might be very strong in other places, but in the Great Dao Valley, they were genuine small fries. They couldn't cause too much trouble. Ningyu letting the two of them enter the storage ring was a sign of his responsibility toward them. "Are we really going to enter the storage ring?" Hearing Ningyu's words, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu asked. The two of them were not ignorant people, but they also wanted to share the burden for Ningyu. "Go in first. If it's possible, I'll let you out." Ningyu opened his storage ring as he spoke. "Shio, shio." The Dark Emperor and Ninglu looked at each other before leaping up and entering the storage ring. "Hongmo." Just as the Dark Emperor and Ninglu entered the spatial ring, Ningyu shouted in a low voice. In a split second, the Red Devil emerged from the Red Devil sword. Ningyu held the Red Demon sword in his hand and put away the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Ningyu believed that since he had news of the Essence Creation Divine Staff, immortal blood poison would not spread it wantonly. At this time, it was not suitable for him to bring the Essence Creation Divine Staff with him. His idea was to take the Red Fiend sword and leave the Origin Creating Divine Staff as a backup. After devouring Toxic Dragon No. 1's primordial spirit, the Red Demon sword had advanced to the Heavenly Treasure level. Although it was the weakest Heavenly Treasure, it was still a Heavenly Treasure. "Ningyu, if you can find more primordial spirits and Dharma treasures for me, the Red Demon sword might even have a chance of becoming a profound treasure." The Red Fiend was very excited. He shouted at Ningyu as soon as he came out. In fact, Red Fiend had a reason to be excited. The fact that the Red Demon Sword had the chance to become a dark treasure meant that he had the chance to improve further. After fusing with the Red Fiend Sword once again, his abilities were now linked to the Red Fiend Sword's level. Now that the Red Demon Sword was at the early stage of Heavenly Treasure, his strength had already reached the early stage of Heavenly Immortal. After all, Ninglu had been busy for a very long period of time, yet he was merely able to go against an expert that possessed 2 Heavenly Immortal laws. As for the Dark Emperor, he was in an even more miserable state. He could only go against martial artists that possessed 10 great Tao energies, and he could only suffer grievances when encountering experts that possessed Heavenly Immortal laws. Oh right. Ningyu's mind suddenly stirred as he asked the Red Fiend, "Can the Red Fiend Sword devour the great Tao power?" Red Fiend was slightly taken aback. To be honest, he had never thought about this. The Red Demon Sword could devour primordial spirits, magic treasures, and vital energy. However, it had never devoured the power of the Great Tao. "I'm not too sure about the specifics." The Red Devil shook his head and answered truthfully. "When we encounter the power of the Great Path, I'll leave it to you first." Ningyu waved his hand and leaped into the air. He was the first to rush into the Great Path Valley. Behind Ningyu, the Human Demon, the Red Fiend, the 5-fingered Immortal, and the 8-legged Demon followed closely behind Ningyu into the Great Path Valley. Rumble. As soon as Ningyu entered the Great Path Valley, he heard a rumbling sound. What's going on? The sudden change caused Ningyu's head to spin momentarily. It's normal. The 8-legged Demon explained, ever since the Great Path Valley was formed, this rumbling sound has always been present. When we reach the central region, this rumbling sound will naturally disappear. You've entered the Great Path Valley before? Ningyu looked at the 8-legged Demon in surprise and asked. The 8-legged Demon clearly knew a lot about the Great Path Valley, which exceeded Ningyu's expectations. The 8-legged Demon nodded and said, "Yes, I've entered the Great Path Valley with immortal creation in the past, but I didn't reach the deepest part." Didn't reach the deepest part? Ningyu frowned. He had a rough understanding of immortal creation's strength. He could tell from the Essence Creation Divine Staff that immortal creation left him that immortal creation must have been an extremely powerful existence. If even immortal creation was unable to reach the deepest part, one could imagine how dangerous the Great Path Valley was. Perhaps it had guessed what Ningyu was thinking. The 8-legged Demon explained, "Immortal creation left behind 4 words. 4 words. 4 words." Ningyu was startled and asked, "It's not time yet." The 8-legged Demon said, "It's not time yet, huh?" Ningyu frowned slightly. Then, his figure flashed and he sped up toward the depths of the Great Path Valley. Since he was already here, he might as well take things as they come. Ningyu did not want to give up halfway. Moreover, with their team, unless a true late-stage Heavenly Immortal appeared, they could definitely do whatever they wanted in the Great Path Valley. Swoosh. Even though Ningyu's team was very fast, they still had to run at full speed for an hour before they reached the center of the Great Path Valley. Relatively speaking, the center of the Great Path Valley was much more spacious than the front valley. More accurately speaking, only the center of the Great Path Valley could be called a valley, while the front could only be called a winding path. So many small valleys. Ningyu looked at the entrances that extended in all directions and frowned. Which one is the main path? Follow me. At this time, the 8-legged Demon's usefulness was revealed. Although the 8-legged Demon was not strong, with him as a guide, Ningyu's team could avoid many detours. Whoosh. Soon, the 8-legged Demon led Ningyu's team to the entrance of a small valley. There is great Tao energy inside. The 8-legged Demon pointed at the entrance of the small valley and said, "Back then, Origin Creation Immortal did not care about this great Tao energy. However, I kept an eye out and remembered all the small valleys that Origin Creation Immortal had seen." You said that there is great Tao energy inside? The Human Demon was slightly surprised. This was because the valley that the 8-legged Demon was pointing at was too small. It was so small that his perception could easily cover it. With his mid-stage Heavenly Immortal perception, He could easily sense that there was no great Tao energy inside this small valley. Could it be that the eight-legged demon remembered wrongly? Watch me. The eight-legged demon knew that the human demon did not believe him. He clenched his right fist and punched out. A terrifying fist light separated from the eight-legged demon's fist and slammed into the small valley in front of them. Rumble. Under the eight-legged demon's attack, the small valley instantly disintegrated and turned into ruins. The eight-legged demon smiled. Under the confused gazes of Ning Yu and the others, he walked to the center of the ruins and picked up a rock. Catcher. With a little force, the eight-legged demon split the rock into two. Swish, 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 swish. As soon as the rock was split open, 5 cold lights shot out. Great Tao energy, the human demon exclaimed. That's right, these 5 cold lights were great Tao energy. It wasn't just the human demon. Even Ning Yu was surprised. Chapter 2031. Swoosh. The corners of the eight-legged monster's lips curled up slightly. It then leaped into the air and dashed towards the 5 great path powers. An eight-legged demon beast was a terrifying existence that possessed 8 heavenly immortal laws. How could mere 5 grand Tao energies possibly escape the palm of his hand? With a flash of its figure, the eight-legged monster managed to gain firm control of the 5 great path forces in just a short while and returned to Ning Yu's side. Since the eight-legged demon beast had come to Ning Yu's side, it meant that his intentions were very clear. Give the great path powers to Ning Yu. Thank you. Ning Yu didn't stand on ceremony with the eight-legged demon beast. He took the 5 great path forces from the eight-legged demon beast and threw them to the Red Fiend. Ning Yu had previously said that all the great path powers obtained in the Great Path Valley would be given to the Red Fiend first. Now that he had 5 great path powers, Ning Yu would naturally fulfill his promise and give them to the Red Fiend. Let's go. The eight-legged monster frowned slightly when it saw Ning Yu give the great path powers to the Red Fiend. It then let out a low grunt and dashed towards the depths of the Great Path Valley. The reason why the eight-legged monster had such an expression when it saw Ning Yu give the great path powers to the Red Fiend was not because it regretted it, but because it felt that the great path powers would be more useful in Ning Yu's hands than in the Red Fiend's. In its opinion, the Red Fiend would not be able to make the Red Fiend sword break through to the Dark Treasure level even if it gave more great path powers to the Red Fiend. It might not even reach the peak Heavenly Treasure level. After all, once a Dharma treasure reached the Heavenly Treasure level, it would be even more difficult to upgrade it. Although it did not agree with Ning Yu's actions, the eight-legged monster did not say it out loud. That was because it had given the great path powers to Ning Yu, so how Ning Yu handled them had nothing to do with it. What it needed to do now was to find all the small valleys in its memory. That was all. Before long, the eight-legged monster stopped in front of a small valley. The monster clenched its fists and punched. Boom. The same action, the same result. The small valley collapsed with a loud bang. What was slightly different from the last time was that the eight-legged demon beast had found 2 stones in this small valley. Catcher. Catcher. The eight-legged demonic beast smashed the 2 rocks into smithereens with a slight force from its palm. Shio shio shio, just as the 2 stones shattered, several rays of cold light shot out from within. This, looking at the cold light that shot out from the 2 stones, even with Ning Yu's composure, he couldn't help but gape in shock. Many. There were simply too many of them. His initial estimate was that there were at least dozens of great Tao energies. How could Ning Yu not be surprised by the sudden appearance of so much power of great Tao? How could he not be shocked? Shio. At this moment, a figure suddenly dashed out from beside Ning Yu. Red Devil. Ning Yu was shocked. But soon, Ning Yu's expression changed. He knew very well that the Red Fiend's intention was self-evident. He wanted dozens of great Tao energies. Ning Yu opened his mouth, wanting to dissuade the Red Fiend, but in the end, he chose to remain silent. Ning Yu knew better than anyone else that the Red Fiend wanted to eat a fatty. To be honest, Ning Yu didn't approve of the Red Fiend wanting to eat a fatty in one bite. However, on second thought, the Red Fiend had never done anything he wasn't confident in. Since the Red Fiend felt that he could succeed, he might as well let him try. Devour. The Red Fiend was originally worried that Ningyu would stop him, but now that Ningyu chose to remain silent, he was naturally very happy. In his joy, he opened his mouth and instantly sucked dozens of great Tao energies into his mouth. Swoosh! Then, Ningyu and the others saw the Red Fiend's figure move and enter the Red Fiend sword in front of them. Buzz! As soon as the Red Fiend entered the Red Fiend sword vibrated. Moreover, the vibrations became more and more intense. Can it really advance to the peak of heavenly treasure? The Red Fiend sword's reaction made the eight-legged demon waver. After glancing at the calm Ningyu and the human fiend, the eight-legged demon pondered for a moment and finally chose to continue moving forward. The eight-legged demon was not a fool. He knew that the deeper they went into the Great Path Valley, the more pressure they would face. If the Red Fiend sword could really advance to the level of a dark treasure, it would be great news for them. After all, everyone knew what a dark treasure meant. Swish, swish, swish. In the next period of time, the eight-legged demon continuously found small valleys and extracted the great Tao energies from within. Without a doubt, all of these great Tao energies entered the Red Fiend's stomach. 2 hours. Within 2 hours, the eight-legged demon found a total of 500 great Tao energies. The fact that the eight-legged demon found 500 great Tao energies meant that the Red Fiend had devoured 500 great Tao energies. What's going on? Ningyu stared suspiciously at the Red Fiend sword in his hand and frowned slightly. Out of trust for the Red Fiend, Ningyu had given him as many as 500 great Tao energies. Otherwise, Ningyu would have devoured 500 great Tao energies himself. 500 great Tao energies was not a lot, but it was not a small amount either. Even someone as strong as the human demon only had a little more than 500 strands of great Tao energy when he was in a higher plane. If Ningyu could devour 500 great Tao energies, he could even deal with a mid-stage heaven immortal without relying on the Essence Creation Divine Rod. Without the Essence Creation Divine Rod, Ningyu's overall combat strength could only match an early-stage heaven immortal. If he encountered a mid-stage heaven immortal, he would only be able to bear a grudge. Although Dharma treasures were also a reflection of one's strength, Ningyu would definitely not reject the idea of fighting a mid-stage heaven immortal without the help of Dharma treasures. I might have wasted more than 500 great Tao energies for nothing. The eight-legged monster and the human fiend looked at each other and saw a hint of disappointment in each other's eyes. With so many great Tao energies, anyone would be able to improve their strength greatly. Other than the eight-legged monster and the human fiend, even the five-fingered immortal could not help but shake his head and sigh. Although the great Tao energies were not comparable to the heaven immortal laws, the more great Tao energies one had, the stronger one's strength would be. After all, the heaven immortal laws were derived from the great Tao energies. As long as 50 of the 500 great Tao energies could be transformed into heaven immortal laws, it would be a great opportunity for a martial artist. Now that these opportunities were most likely wasted by the Red Fiend, how could the eight-legged monster and the others not be disappointed? Bam! Bam! In an instant, 2 muffled sounds came from the Red Fiend sword. Then, the Red Fiend sword suddenly broke free from Ningyu's hand and rushed straight into the air. Late stage. Heavenly treasure. Sensing the aura emanating from the Red Fiend sword, even the eight-legged monster, who had some complaints about the Red Fiend, opened his eyes wide and stuttered. Chapter 2032. Phew. The Red Fiend heaved a sigh of relief. To be honest, the Red Fiend had been under a lot of pressure in the past 2 hours. He had devoured 500 great path energies in 2 hours. If the Red Fiend could not make a breakthrough, he would not be able to face Ningyu. Fortunately, after more than 2 hours of hard work, the Red Fiend finally advanced. Moreover, the Red Fiend did not advance from the early stage heavenly treasure to the mid-stage heavenly treasure. It advanced from the early stage heavenly treasure to the late stage heavenly treasure. The Red Fiend's strength naturally increased when the Red Fiend advanced to the late stage heavenly treasure. Late stage heavenly immortal. The Red Fiend's combat power was now comparable to a late stage heavenly immortal. Although he was only the weakest late stage heavenly immortal, the Red Fiend's strength had leaped to become the strongest in this area. Unless Ningyu and the human fiend joined forces and each of them used their trump cards, it would be difficult to compete with the Red Fiend. That was because there was a huge gap between the late-stage Heavenly Immortal and the mid-stage Heavenly Immortal. Your strength. The attention of the eight-legged monster and the human fiend quickly shifted from the Red Fiend to the Red Fiend. The eight-legged demonic beast and the human demon were already shocked, but they were even more astonished by what they saw. The eight-legged monster and the human fiend were not stupid. Moreover, the Red Fiend did not hide anything, so the two of them could easily determine the Red Fiend's true strength. I was just lucky. The Red Fiend smiled at the eight-legged monster and the others. He immediately leaped up and came to Ningyu's side. The Red Fiend cupped his fists at Ningyu and said in a deep voice, "Fortunately, I did not fail." Very good. Ningyu patted the Red Fiend's shoulder and praised him. He then asked in confusion, "I'm very curious. Although 500 Great Path energies are a lot, it should not be enough for the Red Fiend to advance to the late-stage heavenly treasure. How did you do it?" Swoosh. Hearing Ningyu's words, the human fiend and the others all looked over. Obviously. Ningyu's question was exactly what they were wondering. Not only did the Red Fiend sword advance to the late-stage heavenly treasure, but even the Red Fiend's strength had soared to the late-stage heaven immortal. Completing all of this in such a short period of time, and under the premise that he only used 500 Great Path powers, really puzzled them. The Red Demon's sword originally had energy within it. The 500 wisps of Great Tao power merely stimulated it. The Red Devil glanced at the human demon and the eight-legged demon beast before he finally said, "There was energy to begin with." Ningyu was slightly startled, but he immediately understood what Hongmo meant. Previously, the Red Devil had mentioned that there were seals in the depths of the Red Devil sword, and within those seals was an enormous amount of energy. It could be said that the 500 strands of Great Tao energy were only the keys to open those seals. Without 500 Great Tao powers, the seal could not be opened, and the Red Fiend sword would not be able to advance to the late-stage heavenly treasure. Naturally, the Red Fiend would not be able to fight against a late-stage heaven immortal. Therefore, no matter what, the 500 strands of Great Path power were the greatest contributors. Let me stabilize my cultivation first. The Red Devil's figure flashed and directly merged with the Red Fiend sword. Then, under the astonished gazes of the eight-legged demon beast and the others, it went into the storage ring. It seems that the Red Fiend sword is not as simple as it looks. Ningyu frowned. From the beginning to the end, Ningyu still could not figure out the secret of the Red Fiend sword. However, Ningyu felt that as the level of the Red Fiend sword increased, he should be getting closer to the real secret. How far away are we from the deepest area of the Great Path Valley? Ningyu gradually collected his thoughts and looked at the eight-legged demon beast as he asked. At full speed, it will take about 10 minutes. The eight-legged demon thought for a while and answered. 10 minutes. Ningyu took a deep breath and immediately stomped his feet on the ground, charging ahead. Full speed ahead. As soon as he said that, Ningyu's figure disappeared from the eight-legged demon beast and the other's sight. The Red Fiend sword had advanced to the late-stage heavenly treasure, and the strength of the Red Fiend sword had soared to the late-stage heaven immortal. This made Ningyu full of confidence. After all, the Red Fiend sword was his natal Dharma treasure. The increase in the level of the Red Fiend sword meant that his combat strength had also increased. Before, without using the Origin Creation Divine Staff, Ningyu could only fight against early-stage heaven immortals. If he encountered mid-stage heaven immortals, he could only hold a grudge. But now, even without the Origin Creation Divine Staff, Ningyu could still fight against mid-stage heaven immortals with the help of the Red Fiend sword. In fact, it could even kill a mid-heavenly immortal expert. Swish. 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. When the 11th minute arrived, Ningyu suddenly emerged from the void and floated in the air. Buzz. Buzz. Not long after Ningyu stopped, the eight-legged demon beast and the human fiend appeared beside Ningyu. Generally speaking, as long as you can cross this barrier, you will enter the deepest area of the Great Tao Valley. The eight-legged demon beast pointed to the faintly discernible barrier in front of them and said, "The deepest area of the Great Tao Valley is extremely dangerous. Even mid-stage heaven immortals have to be extremely careful when they enter. Otherwise, they might die inside." Hearing the eight-legged demon beast's words, Ningyu vaguely felt that something was amiss. As long as you can. These words, no matter how one listened to them, did not seem like normal words. Could it be? At this thought, Ningyu's expression instantly became solemn. Roar. As expected. A terrifying roar came from the faintly discernible barrier. Swish. As soon as the roar was heard, a huge figure swept out from the barrier and appeared in front of Ningyu and the others. Mid-stage heaven immortal. Ningyu's expression turned ugly when he sensed the aura emitting from the colossal creature. The area they were in was only the middle part of the Great Tao Valley. If even the middle part was guarded by mid-stage heaven immortal experts, one could imagine how terrifying the deepest area was. Our luck isn't too good. The eight-legged demon beast stared at the colossal creature and said in a deep voice, "There are many demonic beasts inside the barrier that separates the middle and deepest areas of the Great Tao Valley. The last time I came here with immortal creation, there was only an early-stage heaven immortal beast inside the barrier. I didn't expect a mid-stage heaven immortal beast to appear." Ningyu was speechless. His luck was too bad. Encountering a mid-stage heaven immortal beast before they even entered the deepest area was the worst thing that could happen to them. This was because killing a mid-stage heavenly immortal demonic beast required a lot of resources. Unbeknownst to Ningyu, while he was staring at the colossal creature, two cultivators were paying close attention to what was happening in the void a distance away from the barrier. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely recognize one of the cultivators. It was none other than Immortal Blood Poison, whose clone he had destroyed. Chapter 2033. Immortal Hongling. This martial artist in red was none other than the expert from the primordial demon sect who had convinced Immortal Blood Poison previously, Immortal Hongling. "I hope they won't disappoint me." Immortal Blood Poison crossed his arms over his chest, staring with interest at Ningyu and the others on the other side of the barrier. Although they were quite far away from Ningyu's group and were in the void, how could this stop Immortal Blood Poison? Immortal Blood Poison had already seen every move of Ningyu's group through a secret technique. "Don't be careless. I can sense a rather terrifying aura from Ningyu's body," Immortal Hongling reminded. Moreover, the person by Ningyu's side isn't simple as well. He's a human devil who once slaughtered numerous heavenly immortal experts by himself. As a super expert from the primordial demon sect, Immortal Hongling clearly knew more things. Apart from the eight-legged demonic beast, she knew the human demon and five-fingered immortal beside Ningyu like the back of her hand. "It's fine. The demonic beast over there is called the Dragon Scorpion. Even I would find it difficult to deal with it, let alone Ningyu's group." Immortal Blood Poison waved his hand and said casually, "We can take this opportunity to observe the overall strength of Ningyu's group and decide whether to kill them or subdue them." Immortal Hongling frowned slightly when she saw Immortal Blood Poison's arrogance. She wanted to say something, but chose to keep quiet in the end. After all, she had teamed up with Immortal Blood Poison to fight against the Sacred Divine Palace and the other sects. If Immortal Blood Poison was stupid, she wouldn't mind abandoning him and looking for others to work with. She might even look for Ningyu to work with. Immortal Hongling didn't have lifelong friends, much less lifelong enemies. In the face of absolute benefits, anything could happen. "That's the Dragon Scorpion." The eight-legged demonic beast clearly recognized the Dragon Scorpion. He explained to Ningyu, "We can only kill it or beat it into submission. Otherwise, we won't be able to enter the deepest part of the Great Tao Valley." "Beat it into submission?" Ningyu smiled bitterly. Strictly speaking, it was more difficult to subdue a mid-stage heaven immortal demonic beast like the Dragon Scorpion than to kill them. Therefore, Ningyu did not think that the eight-legged monster would subdue the Dragon Scorpion beast. "Human devil." Ningyu took a deep breath and turned to the human demon, saying, "You and I will attack together. We must finish off this scorpion beast." "All right." The human demon nodded and leaped into the air, hovering next to Ningyu. "I sense a familiar aura from you." Just as Ningyu and the human demon were about to take action, the Dragon Scorpion suddenly spoke. "Could it be that you are that person's disciple?" Ningyu and the human devil were both surprised. They didn't expect the dragon scorpion to speak, and from its expression, it didn't seem to want to be their enemy. Ningyu pondered for a moment and guessed who that person the dragon scorpion beast was referring to. Origin, creation, immortal. The person the dragon scorpion beast was talking about was 100% origin, creation, immortal. I'm not his disciple. Ningyu shook his head at the dragon scorpion beast. What a pity. Ningyu's action caused the dragon scorpion beast to reveal a disappointed expression. That's right, it was disappointed, and it didn't seem to be faking it. Although I'm not his disciple, I have a good relationship with him. Ningyu made up his mind and took out the origin, creation, divine stick. Boom. As soon as Ningyu took out the origin, creation, divine stick, the dragon scorpion beast's eyes widened and a terrifying aura emanated from its body. I can't believe it. Even though Ningyu had a lot of self-control, he couldn't help but curse when he felt the aura of the dragon scorpion beast. Strong. It's too strong. The dragon scorpion beast wasn't a mid-stage sky immortal demon beast. Its real cultivation level should be late-stage sky immortal. Moreover, the late-stage heaven immortal stage of the dragon scorpion beast was different from the red fiend. In other words, the two red fiends weren't a match for the dragon scorpion beast. Why do you have the origin, creation, divine stick? Sigh, I should have known. The dragon scorpion beast seemed to want to reprimand Ningyu, but it sighed and fell into deep thought as if it had recalled something. What's going on? Did Ningyu make the dragon scorpion beast submit? Blood Poison Immortal, who was in the void on the other side of the barrier, couldn't help but open his mouth and ask in confusion. Blood Poison Immortal wanted the dragon scorpion beast to deal with Ningyu. At the very least, he wanted to teach Ningyu a lesson. Therefore, when he found out that the dragon scorpion beast was a late-stage sky immortal, Blood Poison Immortal was excited for a long time. However, all of this disappeared with the dragon scorpion beast's silence. Blood Poison Immortal's face turned extremely ugly. He clenched his fists and said fiercely, I didn't expect you to be related to the dragon scorpion beast. How smart was Blood Poison Immortal? Thinking about it, he realized the crux of the matter. It must be because of the origin, creation, divine stick. Otherwise, the dragon scorpion beast wouldn't have stopped attacking for no reason. I want the origin, creation, divine stick. A cold light shot out of Immortal Blood Poison's eyes. At that moment, he secretly made up his mind. Even if he couldn't snatch the fortuitous opportunities in the Dao Valley, he would capture Ningyu and take away the origin, creation, divine staff. This matter was the most important to him, and its importance was rated at 3 stars. Ningyu and his group aren't simple. Perhaps guessing what Blood Poison Immortal was thinking, Immortal Hongling's lips curled up slightly. I suggest that we continue on our way. It's best not to waste time here. What a woman. Blood Poison Immortal snorted. The dragon scorpion beast can't cross the barrier. If we join forces, even 10 Ningyus will die in our hands. Boom. Immortal Hongling's aura was instantly released. Taking a step forward, Immortal Hongling said coldly, if there's a next time, I don't mind sparring with you. Hiss. Although Immortal Hongling's aura disappeared in a flash, it still made Blood Poison Immortal gasp. She hid her strength well. Previously, Blood Poison Immortal had thought that Immortal Hongling was just an ordinary mid-stage heaven immortal martial artist. But now, he was almost certain that Immortal Hongling was not simple. Even if he used his full strength, he might not be able to completely suppress Immortal Hongling. In fact, if Immortal Hongling had a trump card, he might even be defeated. Although he was shocked, Blood Poison Immortal still snorted coldly and said no more. As the saying went, one mustn't lose face. Blood Poison Immortal didn't want to lose face in front of Immortal Hongling. You are indeed the one he chose. On the other side, the dragon scorpion beast stared at Ningyu and said, give me the origin, creation, divine stick. You want the origin, creation, divine stick? Ningyu's expression changed slightly. Although the dragon scorpion beast wasn't hostile toward him, it didn't mean that he would obediently hand over the origin, creation, divine stick. Chapter 2034. Don't worry, I have no enmity towards you. Perhaps sensing Ning Yu's worry, the dragon scorpion waved his hand and said, I just want to take a look at the origin creation divine staff. Ning Yu frowned slightly and said, I know you have no enmity towards me, but I won't hand the origin creation divine staff to you unless you can convince me. You're not afraid of me? The dragon scorpion took a step forward and unleashed his aura, pressuring towards Ning Yu. The dragon scorpion was a late-stage heaven immortal, so his aura was naturally very powerful. Even though Ning Yu was prepared, he couldn't help but grimace in the face of the late-stage heaven immortal's aura. Fortunately, the human demon and the five-fingered immortal also unleashed their auras to resist the dragon scorpion's aura. Otherwise, Ning Yu would have definitely called out the Hong Mo. Although the dragon scorpion was very powerful, it was hard to tell who would win if they really fought. Swish. The dragon scorpion looked at Ning Yu meaningfully and retracted his aura. Sigh. I'm not here to snatch the origin creation divine staff. I'm here to repay a debt of gratitude, the dragon scorpion sighed and explained to Ning Yu. Repay a debt of gratitude? Ning Yu was very confused. However, after thinking about it, he understood what was going on. He had never interacted with the dragon scorpion before, so the dragon scorpion's so-called debt of gratitude was definitely not him, but origin creation immortal. I remember now, you're that little scorpion. Right at this moment, the eight-legged demon beast at the side seemed to have thought of something, and it immediately shouted. The dragon scorpion felt a little embarrassed when he heard the eight-legged demon's words. He was a late-stage heaven immortal, yet the eight-legged demon called him a little scorpion. How was he going to establish himself in the Dao Valley if word got out? What's going on? Asked Ning Yu, having noticed some clues. The eight-legged beast sorted out his thoughts and slowly said, I'll have to start from when immortal creation first entered the Great Dao Valley. It turned out that the last time immortal creation entered the Great Dao Valley, the dragon scorpion beast was still very weak. In fact, it could only be considered a scorpion and not a scorpion dragon. At that time, the dragon scorpion beast was besieged by a few powerful demonic beasts. During that time, immortal origin creation couldn't bear to watch and casually saved the dragon scorpion beast. After rescuing the dragon scorpion beast, immortal origin creation casually left it behind and continued deeper into the Great Dao Valley with the eight-legged demon beast. As the saying goes, the rescuer has no intention, but the rescued have the intention. Ever since then, the dragon scorpion beast had been guarding this place, waiting for immortal creation to choose to repay his kindness. Unfortunately, ever since then, immortal essence creation seemed to have forgotten about the Great Dao Valley and never came back. Now that the dragon scorpion sensed the aura of the origin creating divine rod from Ning Yu, it naturally transferred the promise it had made to Ning Yu. I see. Ning Yu nodded his head gently. Since this matter came from the mouth of the eight-legged demon beast, it was most likely true. Moreover, the dragon scorpion beast's attitude was not bad, so Ning Yu simply threw the origin creating divine rod at the dragon scorpion beast. According to Ning Yu's guess, immortal creation would definitely leave a trump card in the origin creating divine rod. Even if the dragon scorpion beast wanted to snatch the origin creating divine rod, it would most likely fail. Looking at the origin creating divine rod that was continuously charging at it, the dragon scorpion beast took a deep breath and immediately controlled the origin creating divine rod to float in front of it. What happened next left Ning Yu and the others dumbfounded. The dragon scorpion beast did not do anything. It just stared at the origin creating divine rod floating in front of it, as if it was immersed in some kind of memory. Drip, drip, drip. Time passed by quickly. What the hell is going on? Immortal Blood Poison's expression was very ugly. He had originally thought that the dragon scorpion beast would become enemies with Ning Yu, or at least severely injure Ning Yu and the others. Who would have thought that not only would the dragon scorpion beast not become enemies with Ning Yu and the others, it would also stare at the origin creating divine rod in a daze. A bad omen. Immortal Blood Poison turned to look at Immortal Hongling and said in a deep voice, in my opinion, we should kill our way over. Kill our way over. Immortal Hongling was slightly startled. Then, she said, did you not notice the dragon scorpion beast's cultivation? If it's just one dragon scorpion beast, I might choose to attack. But if Ningyu and the human demon are involved, I think you should just save it, unless you are willing to sacrifice yourself to kill 1,000 enemies. Don't provoke me. Immortal Blood Poison looked coldly at Immortal Hongling. Immortal Hongling shrugged her shoulders and did not continue speaking. The more Immortal Hongling acted like this, the angrier Immortal Blood Poison became. However, when he thought of the dragon scorpion beast's formidable strength, Immortal Blood Poison finally chose to compromise and did not continue arguing with Immortal Hongling. This was because Immortal Blood Poison knew very well that now was not the time to bicker with Immortal Hongling. The two of them had a common enemy. Before they dealt with this common enemy, it was not suitable for them to have a falling out. Roar. All of a sudden, the dragon scorpion beast opened its mouth and roared angrily. Swish. As the dragon scorpion beast roared, a fist-sized golden inner core suddenly flew out of its mouth. What? Seeing the golden inner core fly out of the dragon scorpion beast's mouth, the expressions of Ningyu and the human demon changed drastically. Without a doubt, this inner core belonged to the dragon scorpion beast. No matter what, Ningyu and the others would never have imagined that the dragon scorpion beast would actually take out its inner core. One must know that for a Yarrow beast, losing its inner core meant that its overall combat strength would decrease by at least half. Crack. Under the shocked gazes of Ningyu and the others, a terrifying devouring force shot out of the essence-creating divine staff. Obviously, this devouring force easily devoured the inner core that the dragon scorpion beast had taken out. Buzz. After swallowing the inner core, the essence-creating divine staff vibrated slightly. This. Ningyu's eyes widened, and his face was filled with disbelief. 30%. Now, he could already use 30% of the essence-creating divine staff's power. 25% of the essence-creating divine staff's power allowed Ningyu to easily deal with a peak mid-stage heaven immortal. Now that he could use 30% of the essence-creating divine staff's power, Ningyu's overall combat strength was close to a late-stage heaven immortal. It was no exaggeration to say that if Ningyu could have a few more heaven immortal nomological laws, he would be able to easily deal with a late-stage heaven immortal if he encountered one. There are two very strong people not far away. I hope you'll be careful. The dragon scorpion beast glanced at Immortal Xuedu and Immortal Hongling, who were hiding in the void in the distance. Then, it tore open the void and entered. In an instant, the dragon scorpion beast disappeared. Swish. After the dragon scorpion beast disappeared, the essence-creating divine staff drew an arc in the air and returned to Ningyu. Ningyu first bowed deeply in the direction that the dragon scorpion beast disappeared, then reached out his right hand and grasped the essence-creating divine staff. Boom. Chapter 2035. Dragon Scorpion. Almost in an instant, Ningyu understood. The reason why there was energy shooting out of the origin-creating divine rod was entirely because of the dragon scorpion beast. The dragon scorpion beast had mentioned not only allowing the essence creation divine rod to display 30% of its power, but also providing Ningyu with a huge amount of energy. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the energy provided by the dragon scorpion beast could double Ningyu's strength. Buzz. As the energy entered his body, Ningyu's body buzzed. Ningyu wasn't stupid. Since the dragon scorpion beast had given up its inner core to provide him with energy, he naturally wouldn't disappoint it. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu sat down cross-legged. Ningyu quickly circulated the spirit transformation art and began to refine the enormous energy that entered his body. The dragon scorpion beast was willing to give up its inner core. While Ningyu was devouring the energy in his body, the human demon's expression turned solemn. To be honest, the human demon was shocked by the dragon scorpion beast's actions. For a demon beast, losing its inner core could reduce its strength by more than half, or even put its life in danger. The dragon scorpion beast was willing to give up its inner core to repay a debt of gratitude. This courage alone was enough to make the human demon look at it in a different light. You've all been deceived by the dragon scorpion beast. Seeing the human demon's solemn expression, the eight-legged demon rolled its eyes and said, "The dragon scorpion beast has 2 inner cores in total. Even if it gave up one, it wouldn't matter much." 2 inner cores? The human demon exclaimed. It was rare to see a demon beast with two inner cores, even in a high-level plane. Moreover, the human demon knew about the dragon-scorpion beast, but he had never heard of it having two inner cores. Ordinary dragon-scorpion beasts naturally only have one inner core, but that dragon-scorpion beast was different. Its second inner core was completely given to it by Origin Creation Immortal. The eight-legged demon explained. When Origin Creation Immortal saved the dragon-scorpion beast, he had given it a profound immortal-level demon beast's inner core. Otherwise, how could the dragon-scorpion beast advance to the late-stage heaven immortal stage in such a short time? Even if the dragon-scorpion beast tried its best to refine a Shen immortal-level inner core, it could only refine a portion of it. The dragon-scorpion beast couldn't refine the rest of the cores. Since it was unable to refine the inner core, the dragon-scorpion beast decided to hand it over to Ningyu. This could be considered as repaying immortal Origin Creation for saving it back then. From then on, they no longer owed each other anything. Rumble. Not long after, a terrifying voice came from Ningyu's body. Hiss. Sensing the aura emanating from Ningyu's body, the human demon couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air despite knowing how terrifying the inner core was. The current Ningyu's cultivation base was still at the peak of half-step heaven immortal realm, but it gave the human devil an extremely terrifying feeling. This feeling was as if he was facing an expert at the peak of the heavenly immortal realm. Ningyu, you? The human demon looked at Ningyu, his mouth agape. I was lucky to increase my strength a little. Ningyu smiled faintly, then stood up and walked toward the depths of the Great Dao Valley. Although he had a lot of doubts, it wasn't appropriate for the human demon to ask since Ningyu didn't say anything. Therefore, the human demon could only suppress the doubts in his heart and follow closely behind Ningyu with the eight-legged demon and the five-fingered immortal. As the person involved, although Ningyu looked calm on the surface, a storm had already been set off in his heart. The opportunity given by the dragon-scorpion beast, no, it should be the opportunity given by immortal Origin Creation, was simply too shocking. At this moment, Ningyu was even more curious about immortal Origin Creation's identity. This was because the energy that shot out from the Origin Creation divine rod was not just energy, there was also something that shocked him. A mysterious immortal law. Above the heavenly immortal was the mysterious immortal law. It could be said that even if several heavenly immortal laws were combined, they wouldn't be able to resist a mysterious immortal law. This was the domineering nature of a mysterious immortal law. At this moment, there was already a mysterious immortal law in Ningyu's body. He had a mysterious immortal law in his body before advancing to the heavenly immortal realm, and he could control it effortlessly. Throughout the ages, Ningyu was probably the only one who could do this. How strong am I exactly? For the first time, Ningyu felt lost about his own strength. Previously, he could fight against a mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist with the red demon sword without using the Origin Creation divine rod. But now, he could fight against a mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist without using the red demon sword. He could even kill a mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist with ease. He could even kill a late-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist with ease. There was no other reason. He had a mysterious immortal law in his body. The mysterious immortal law was extremely domineering. Even though Ningyu only had one mysterious immortal law, he could easily kill a late-stage heavenly immortal realm martial artist. Unless he encountered a pinnacle heavenly immortal super expert, Ningyu could do whatever he wanted in the Great Dao Valley. He's finally here. In the depths of the Great Dao Valley, Immortal Blood Poison's figure flashed and suddenly appeared in the void. Immortal Red Ling, who was beside Immortal Blood Poison, frowned slightly. She did not know why, but her sharp senses kept feeling that Ningyu was a little different. Her rationality told her that this was not the right time to clash with Ningyu. She should avoid him and temporarily enter the depths of the Great Dao Valley to search for opportunities. However, when she saw the Origin Creation divine rod in Ningyu's hand, she ultimately chose to stay where she was. Long time no see. Looking at Immortal Blood Poison, who had appeared in front of him, Ningyu's lips curled up slightly. I'll give you a chance to live now. Submit to me. Submit to you. Immortal Blood Poison seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He first threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Then, he said coldly, "A piece of trash like you is not qualified. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and hand over the origin creation divine rod. Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are so red." As he spoke, Immortal Blood Poison took a step forward and released his aura. Late stage Heaven Immortal. At this moment, Immortal Blood Poison released his aura without holding anything back. In order to obtain the origin creation divine rod and avoid any unforeseen events, Immortal Blood Poison was going all out. Rumble. Next to Immortal Blood Poison, Immortal Redling frowned and released her aura as well. Late stage Heaven Immortal. Like Immortal Blood Poison, Immortal Redling's cultivation was also at the late stage Heaven Immortal. Swoosh. Sensing the aura released by Immortal Blood Poison and Immortal Redling, Hong Fiend's figure flashed and he darted out of the Red Fiend sword, standing in front of Ningyu. Holding the Red Fiend sword, Hong Fiend said coldly, "If you want to deal with Ningyu, you'll have to get past me first." Heavenly Treasure. And its level is at the late stage Heavenly Treasure. Immortal Blood Poison's attention was not on Hong Fiend, but on the Red Fiend sword. Although Hong Fiend's cultivation was also at the late stage Heaven Immortal, he was only equivalent to the weakest late stage Heaven Immortal. Naturally, Immortal Blood Poison was not afraid of him. Chapter 2036. Clap, clap, clap. Immortal Blood Poison clapped his hands and could not help but say, "Good, very good, very good. Now, hand over the flying sword in your hand, and I will spare your wretched life. You're courting death." When had Red Fiend ever suffered such humiliation? His eyes turned cold, and he leaped into the air, charging at Immortal Blood Poison with the Red Fiend sword in hand. "You overestimate yourself." Seeing Red Fiend charging at him, Immortal Blood Poison's lips curled into a smile. He flicked his right hand, and a beam of cold light shot out. Kai. The beam of cold light was very fast, so fast that it made a hissing sound as it rubbed against the air. Ding! In the blink of an eye, the beam of cold light collided with the Red Fiend sword. A crisp sound rang out, and the Red Fiend sword flew out of Red Fiend's hand, falling straight to the ground. Bang! Immortal Blood Poison was not satisfied after striking the Red Fiend sword. He clenched his fists and charged out again. This time, his fist landed on Red Fiend's body, sending him flying several meters away. Swish! If not for the human demon catching Red Fiend at the critical moment, Red Fiend's injuries would have worsened. Even so, Red Fiend's aura was weak, and he did not look very well. "I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it." Immortal Blood Poison shrugged at Red Fiend, then shifted his gaze to Ningyu. He said calmly, "Hand over the origin divine staff. I don't want to repeat myself. Submit, or..." Ningyu's expression was indifferent. He paused for a moment, then said coldly, "Die." When Ningyu said the word die, the temperature of the entire area instantly dropped by dozens of degrees, becoming bone-chilling. You, Immortal Blood Venom stared fixedly at Ningyu, as though he had just seen something terrifying. Even his words began to stutter. Run. In almost an instant, Immortal Blood Poison made his decision. Run. He would run as far as he could. At this moment, Immortal Blood Poison had no backbone. All he wanted to do was run. What the hell is going on? Immortal Blood Poison's sudden escape left the human fiend god and the eight-legged Yarrow rather flabbergasted. As they saw it, Ningyu hadn't even attacked yet. Why had Immortal Blood Poison chosen to flee? Immortal Blood Poison, this is all your fault. Immortal Blood Poison was not the only one who chose to flee. Even Immortal Hongling, who was beside him, turned pale with fright and fled at top speed. The human devil and the eight-legged demonic beast couldn't see the profound immortal law on Ningyu's body, but as late-stage Heaven Immortal experts, they could naturally see through it. Even though they were extremely confident in their strengths, under the formidable deterrence of the mysterious immortal laws, they still chose to flee at the first possible moment. "Can you escape?" The corner of Ningyu's lips curled up slightly. Then, he tore open the void and entered it. Buzz. After Ningyu left, The area instantly returned to peace, and the temperature also returned to normal. Beep, beep, beep. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 seconds passed. And when the 4th second arrived, catcher! The void suddenly split open, and a figure slowly appeared from within. Ningyu. The martial artist who appeared from the void was Ningyu. However, Ningyu was carrying a martial artist in each of his hands. Immortal blood poison in his left hand, and immortal hongling in his right. Bang! Bang! Ningyu flung his hands, tossing immortal blood poison and immortal hongling to the ground. At this moment, immortal blood poison and immortal hongling were like dead dogs, their eyes dim and lifeless. Ningyu, how did you do it? The human devil, 8-legged demonic beast, and immortal 5-fingered exclaimed. Only Red Fiend frowned slightly, looking at Ningyu thoughtfully. Even though he hadn't truly advanced to the late-stage Heaven Immortal stage, Red Fiend could unleash the combat power of a late-stage Heaven Immortal. The human devil and 8-legged demonic beast were unable to discover the profound immortal laws, but Red Fiend could vaguely sense some clues. I'm relying on this. Ningyu didn't hide anything. With a thought, he summoned the profound immortal laws in his body, and they hovered above his palm. Gasp! Looking at the profound immortal laws hovering above Ningyu's palm, the human devil and 8-legged demonic beast gasped. Profound immortal laws. After a mere second of shock, the human devil and the rest revealed looks of ecstasy. They naturally knew what profound immortal laws meant. Profound immortal laws meant that unless they encountered a peak Heaven Immortal expert, their group would dominate the entire Great Dao Valley. Ningyu, how many profound immortal laws do you have in total? The 8-legged demonic beast swallowed his saliva and asked. How many do I have? I'm already very lucky to have one. Ningyu rolled his eyes, then kicked immortal blood poison and said, Have you thought it through? Submit to me, or choose death. Fut. You want me to submit to you? In your next life. Immortal blood poison's expression was cold as he said viciously. Crack. Ningyu didn't waste words with immortal blood venom. Instead, he stomped down on immortal blood venom's head, causing it to explode. Then, Ningyu, along with immortal blood poison's primordial spirit and corpse, were thrown into his storage ring. After all, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu were in the storage ring. Ningyu did not want to favor one and discriminate against the other. I'll go in and watch. The Red Devil immediately fused with the Red Devil sword and quickly entered the storage ring. Although immortal blood poison's head had been crushed, his primordial spirit was still there. The Red Devil was worried that Ning Lu and the human devil would be in danger, so he wanted to enter the storage ring to help them. Along the way, the Red Devil had enjoyed the power of 500 Great Dao alone. To be honest, the Red Devil felt a little bad. Now that there were benefits, he naturally would not ask for more. Let me introduce myself. Ningyu fiddled with the profound immortal laws in his hand as his gaze landed on immortal blood poison. For some reason, Ningyu sensed a slightly palpitating aura from immortal blood poison. Of course, it was only palpitating. It did not mean that Ningyu could not kill immortal blood poison. Ningyu's idea was very simple. He wanted to understand the other experts in the Dao Valley through immortal blood poison. I am immortal blood poison from the primordial demon sect. Immortal blood poison regained her composure and said, There are many experts in the Dao Valley. Even if you have the profound immortal laws, you will not be able to dominate the Great Dao Valley. If you have 2 or 3 profound immortal laws, you might be able to gain a foothold in the Dao Valley. However, you only have 1 profound immortal law. At this point, Immortal Hongling shook her head and continued, I'm sorry to say that you only have one choice now. Join forces with me. Only by joining forces with me can you dominate the Great Dao Valley and obtain enough opportunities. One had to admit that immortal blood poison was very good at persuading people. If Ningyu was just an ordinary martial artist, he might have been deceived by her. But unfortunately, Ningyu was not an ordinary martial artist. From the beginning, he had never thought of joining forces with immortal blood poison. Chapter 2037. The so-called opportunity that you speak of. Naturally, Ningyu would not be convinced by immortal Hongling. He stared at her and asked calmly, "What exactly is it?" "Heavenly immortal laws." Immortal Hongling's gaze involuntarily shifted to the demonic human and eight-legged demonic beast at the side. She said in a deep voice, "If I'm not wrong, a palace in the deepest part of the Great Dao Valley should be filled with people right now." Ningyu frowned. He vaguely felt that immortal Hongling was not as simple as she seemed on the surface. Although immortal Hongling was trying her best to rope him in, it had to be said that this move of hers was a retreat in order to advance. At that thought, Ningyu's brows unfurrowed. If immortal Hongling was facing someone else, perhaps this move would be effective. Unfortunately, she was facing Ningyu. If she used this move again, it was destined to be fruitless. "Actually, there's no conflict of interest between us, nor do we have any enmity between us. We can totally work together." When she saw Ningyu's expression, immortal Hongling seemed to have grasped some key point and said again, "When the time comes, I only want 10% of the heavenly immortal laws. The remaining 90% will belong to you. Do you think that I can't obtain those heavenly immortal laws by myself?" Ningyu did not answer immortal Hongling's question. Instead, he asked her a question. Thump. Immortal Hongling's heart skipped a beat when she heard Ningyu's question. At that moment, she was already certain that Ningyu did not intend to keep her. Her expression was dark and uncertain. Finally, she gritted her teeth and said, "I know another secret." Ningyu looked at immortal Hongling with a faint smile but did not say anything. Ningyu's expression calmed immortal Hongling down a little. No matter what, as long as Ningyu gave her a chance to continue speaking, she might be able to survive. After sorting out her thoughts, immortal Hongling said in a deep voice, "Actually, everyone in the Great Dao Valley is just a GU worm." GU worm? Ningyu's heart skipped a beat, but he said calmly, "Tell me about it." Ningyu naturally knew what GU worms meant. Some places would drive all kinds of GU worms to one place and let them kill each other. And the result of this kind of cannibalism would be the final GU king. When he entered the Great Dao Valley, Ningyu had the same thought. But in the end, he rejected this thought in his heart. After all, there were martial artists from the Sacred Divine Palace, the Prime Val Demon Sect, the Ancient Demon Sect, the Heaven Secret Sect, and many other powerful forces in the Great Dao Valley. Who had the guts to treat them as GU worms? Actually, I only heard about this by chance. In order to survive, immortal Hongling had no choice but to reveal all the secrets she knew. It turned out that within the Dao Valley, there were a total of several types of fortuitous opportunities. The weakest was the great Dao energy in the middle. Naturally, those truly strong cultivators would disdain such opportunities. The slightly stronger fortuitous opportunities were located in the Great Dao Palace in the deepest part of the Great Dao Valley. This was because there was a considerable amount of heaven immortal laws in the Great Dao Palace. Of course, the most tempting opportunity was in the passageway that led to the higher planes. That passage was called the Path to Heaven. It was rumored that there were not only Xian immortal laws in the Path to Heaven, but also the corpses of Xian immortals. The Path to Heaven, as its name suggested, was a path from a low-level plane to a high-level plane. What does this have to do with raising GU worms? Ningyu frowned because immortal Hongling did not explain the specific reason. She glanced at Ningyu and said solemnly, "The Path to Heaven only allows martial artists below the Xian immortal level to enter. As for those who have reached the Xian immortal level, they are not allowed to enter. If I'm not wrong, there should be several powerful forces at the end of the Path to Heaven, and the weakest among them is a half-step Xian immortal." Gasp. Hearing immortal Hongling's explanation, the human demon and the eight-legged demonic beast gasped. They did not expect such a secret to exist. Since there were Xian immortals guarding the end of the Path to Heaven, why did they risk their lives to enter the Path to Heaven? One must know that even if they obtained a great opportunity, they would not be a match for Xian immortals. We have no other choice. As if sensing the confusion in the human demon and the eight-legged demonic beast, immortal Hongling continued, "Those Xian immortal lords have already taken control of the immortal spirit realm. If we want to return to a high-level plane, we can only go through the Path to Heaven. If you want to stay in the immortal spirit realm for the rest of your life, You naturally do not need to participate. At this time, the human demon and the eight-legged demonic beast finally understood. Who did not want to enter a high-level plane? Staying in the immortal spirit realm meant that they would never be able to break through to a higher level. Even heaven immortals had a limited lifespan. Immortal Hongling was right. Unless they wanted to stay in the immortal spirit realm for the rest of their lives, most people would come to the Great Dao Valley. I want to know which forces the Xian immortals at the other end of the path to heaven are from. Ning Yu stared into Immortal Hongling's eyes and asked. Ning Yu could almost be sure that Immortal Hongling was not lying to him. Since Immortal Hongling was not lying to him, then he had to clarify some things. At the very least, he had to know which forces the experts guarding the other end of the path to heaven were from. Sacred Divine Palace, Primordial Demon Sect, Ancient Demon Sect, Fallen Spirit Sect, and Heaven Secret Sect. Immortal Hongling did not dare to hide anything and answered honestly. You mean to say that all of you have been abandoned? Ning Yu frowned. Whether it was Immortal Hongling or the peerless geniuses like the demonic Tuor Divine Sun, they were all the pillars of these forces. Even though the Sacred Divine Palace and the other sects were huge forces that ruled over several territories, losing one or even several peerless geniuses was still painful. Why do you think the Sacred Divine Palace and the other sects would scheme against their own peerless geniuses? Don't they feel heartache? Immortal Hongling asked. However, before Ning Yu could answer, Immortal Hongling explained, apart from the Heaven Secret Sect, the strongest experts of these forces are all half-step Xian immortals. And the most crucial point is that their lifespans are reaching the limit. That's why they are willing to take the risk and sacrifice the peerless geniuses of their sects to obtain some Xian immortal laws from the path to heaven, because to them, one Xian immortal law can allow them to live for another 10,000 years. After saying this, Immortal Hongling did not speak further. Instead, she quietly waited for Ning Yu's decision. If Ning Yu still chose to kill her, then she could only fight back. But if Ning Yu chose to keep her, then her persuasion would become invaluable. You've convinced me, so I'll keep you by my side for the time being. However, if you have the slightest thought of resisting, I'll kill you instantly. Chapter 2038. Swoosh. Immortal Hongling merely frowned slightly as she looked at the soul power flying towards her. She did not do anything out of line. At this moment, Immortal Hongling knew very well that if she dared to make any strange movements, Ning Yu would kill her. This was evident from the five-fingered immortal. What Ning Yu wanted was absolute obedience. As for those who didn't obey him, he would kill them without leaving any future troubles. Since there was no way she could resist, Immortal Hongling released her consciousness and allowed Ning Yu to control her. That's smart. Ning Yu nodded in satisfaction at Immortal Hongling's actions. Just as Immortal Hongling had thought, as long as she had any ulterior motives, he would kill her. Lead the way. Controlling Immortal Hongling did not take up too much of Ning Yu's time. A moment later, Ning Yu waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Let's go to the Great Dao Hall first." No problem. Immortal Hongling leaped up and headed straight for the Great Dao Hall. Ning Yu, the human demon, the eight-legged beast, and the five-fingered immortal followed closely behind her. Meanwhile, in the deepest part of the Great Dao Valley, in front of the Great Dao Hall, swoosh, every once in a while, a few figures would tear through the void and appear. If Ning Yu was here, he would definitely notice that the weakest of the martial artists that appeared from the void was an early-stage Heaven Immortal. As for martial artists below the Heaven Immortal level, there was no way they could come here. Buzz. Suddenly, the void trembled. Two young martial artists slowly walked out of the void. Should we go in first? One of the two young martial artists, a man in his 20s, scanned the surroundings and said, "If the two of us join forces, we can easily break through the door of the Great Dao Hall." The other young woman glanced at the man who had spoken, then found a secluded spot and chose to close her eyes to rest. The young woman's actions caused a cold look to surface in the young man's eyes. But very quickly, this cold gaze disappeared and was replaced with indifference. "Zhao Rui, you can't escape from me." The corners of the young man's mouth rose into an arc, but he didn't say another word. Hua. In the following period of time, experts would appear from time to time. However, these martial artists were very well behaved and did not make a ruckus. They all randomly found a place to stop. About an hour later. Ahem. Jin Hua stood up. His gaze paused on Zhao Rui for a moment. After obtaining Zhao Rui's approval, he coughed dryly twice and spoke in a clear voice, "I shall not say any more unnecessary words. Since everyone is able to come here, let's state our purpose, catcher." However, before Jin Hua could finish his sentence, a crack was heard in the void. Following that, several figures appeared. The sudden turn of events caused Jin Hua's expression to turn extremely unsightly. Whoosh. However, while Jin Hua's expression was ugly, Zhao Rui, who was beside him, suddenly opened her eyes and glared at the leading cultivator. Ningyu, Zhao Rui. Almost at the same time, Zhao Rui and the leading martial artist spoke in unison. Jin Hua's eyes were fixed on Ningyu. After all, Zhao Rui had praised Ningyu in front of him more than once. Now that Ningyu had appeared, he naturally had to carefully observe him. After Zhao Rui and Ningyu spoke in unison, they were met with a brief moment of silence. In the end, it was Ningyu who broke the silence and asked, "I heard that you were taken away by a mysterious expert." As he spoke, Ningyu's gaze landed on Jin Hua, intentionally or unintentionally. Undisguised. Ningyu's gaze was undisguised and undisguised. Ningyu's meaning was clear. As long as Zhao Rui gave the word, he would take down Jin Hua on the spot. Catcher. Ningyu's undisguised gaze made Jin Hua's already gloomy expression turn even colder. "He's my friend." How could Zhao Rui not know what Ningyu meant? She laughed bitterly and pointed to Jin Hua as she explained, "When I entered the Dao Valley, he was the first to find me." The reason why Zhao Rui explained Jin Hua's identity to Ningyu was that she did not want Ningyu to misunderstand. On the other hand, she did not want Ningyu and Jin Hua to have a conflict. After all, in her opinion, Ningyu was definitely not Jin Hua's match. Although Ningyu gave her a mysterious and unfathomable feeling, she still felt that Jin Hua would win. "I hope so." Ningyu shrugged and did not comment. To be honest, anyone with eyes could tell that Jin Hua was definitely up to no good. Because of his relationship with Zhao Rui, otherwise, Ningyu would definitely teach Jin Hua a lesson. Because the moment he appeared, Jin Hua had a deep enmity towards him. "Did I offend you? Have we met before?" Ningyu's attitude towards life was that he would do anything for his friends and kill all his enemies. Crack, crack, crack. Seeing Ningyu's indifferent face with a hint of disdain, Jin Hua clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. Swoosh. In an instant, Jin Hua stamped his feet on the ground and rushed out. When Jin Hua was in the high-level Central Divine Dynasty, he had never been bullied like this. He was an absolute genius ranked in the top 50 of the Central Divine Dynasty. Even some peak experts in the mid-sized territories would be polite when they saw him, for fear of offending him. However, Ningyu not only looked at him with a hint of disdain, but also ignored him. This was really intolerable. Red Devil. Ningyu frowned slightly, glanced at Zhao Rui casually, and then handed over Red Devil. Ningyu did not plan to deal with Jin Hua. After all, he now had two trump cards, the mysterious immortal law and the origin divine staff. It was difficult to compete with Jin Hua with his own strength. But Red Devil was different. Ningyu knew very well that although he had thrown Immortal Blood Poison's corpse and primordial spirit into his storage ring for the Dark Emperor and Ninglu to devour, Red Devil had gained a lot of benefits. Because Immortal Blood Poison's primordial spirit was too powerful, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu could not refine it with their strength. Therefore, Immortal Blood Poison's primordial spirit naturally fell on Red Devil. If Red Devil's strength was only at the late-stage Heaven Immortal before, then his current strength could contend with some veteran late-stage Heaven Immortal experts. Red Devil knew that Ningyu wanted to establish his dominance, so he did not hold back and used his full strength in the first move. Red Devil waved the Red Devil sword in his hand, and in an instant, a terrifying sword light shot out. Oh no! Seeing the sword light shot out from the Red Devil sword, Jin Hua's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly gathered the primordial chi in his body on his fist and punched out. What Jin Hua was afraid of was not Red Devil, but the red devil sword in his hand. As a peerless genius of the Central Divine Dynasty, Jin Hua could tell at a glance that the red devil sword had reached the late-stage heavenly treasure. The late-stage heavenly treasure was not scary. What was scary was that it could exert its full strength in the hands of Red Devil. Damn it! Jin Hua could not help but curse. Now, Jin Hua regretted not using his full strength. Chapter 2039. It's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. In my opinion, let's forget about it this time. Before Jin Hua's fist came into contact with Hong Mo's sword gleam, an indifferent voice resounded in the area. Swoosh! The moment the voice rang out, the void suddenly split open, and a warrior in grey rushed out. It seemed like the warrior in grey was trying to mediate, but in fact, his target was Hong Mo, not Jin Hua. Crack! The warrior in grey clenched his right fist and punched the sword gleam before Jin Hua. A crisp sound rang out, and Hong Mo's sword gleam instantly broke. Good chance. Jin Hua naturally would not let go of such a good opportunity. Taking advantage of this gap, he came right in front of Hong Mo and punched Hong Mo's chest with a violent Yuan Qi gale. Fut! Hong Mo spat out a mouthful of blood after being punched in the chest by Jin Hua, and his breath became a little weak. Swoosh! Seeing Hong Mo get hit by Jin Hua, Ningyu's face instantly darkened. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that if the warrior in grey had not suddenly appeared, Jin Hua would definitely have been defeated by Hong Mo. After all, Jin Hua was careless and did not use his full strength. Now that the warrior in grey had appeared, it had completely disrupted Ningyu's plans, forcing him to show up. That's right. We should be more friendly to each other. The warrior in grey shrugged and said with a smile, later, we will enter the temple together. There's no need for conflict at this time. If there's any misunderstanding, we can sit down and discuss it. Humph. Jin Hua snorted coldly and did not continue to get involved. Jin Hua was not a hothead. He was very clear that the grey-clothed martial artist was targeting Ningyu. He could sit back and watch the tigers fight. He could see whether Ningyu was pretending to be weak or just a wax statue. Do you know his identity? Ningyu ignored the grey-robed cultivator. Instead, he turned around and asked Immortal Hong Ling. Since the warrior in grey had interfered, Ningyu naturally would not let it go. An expert from Sacred Divine Palace. Hong Ling Immortal answered honestly. Kill. Right after Immortal Hong Ling spoke, Ningyu pushed off the ground and rushed at the grey-robed cultivator. As expected, I fell for it. When the grey-robed cultivator saw Ningyu charging at him, the corners of his lips curled up as if his scheme had succeeded. Buzz. As the grey-robed cultivator spoke, the space beside him trembled. Then, two martial artists appeared. Late-stage Heaven Immortal. Both of them were at the late-stage Heaven Immortal realm. One was Immortal Bright Dove from the Ancient Devil sect, while the other was Immortal Baldy from the Fallen Spirit sect. Be careful. Human Devil and Zhao Rui cried out at the same time when they saw the two late Heaven Immortal experts. However, neither of them did anything. The Human Devil didn't attack because he knew that Ningyu had the Shen Immortal Law and the Origin Creation Divine Staff. Even if three late Heaven Immortal experts joined forces, they might not be a match for Ningyu. Zhao Rui didn't attack because she was stopped by Jin Hua. I can see that Ningyu's aura is restrained, and he doesn't panic at all. He should be able to deal with Immortal Bright Dove and the others easily. Jin Hua glanced at Ningyu, who was rushing out, and said with a fake smile, "Didn't you say that Ningyu is very strong? If he can't even deal with three late-stage Heaven Immortals, how can he join our Central Divine Dynasty?" You. Zhao Rui's face darkened. She did say that she wanted Ningyu to join the Central Divine Dynasty. Now that Jin Hua had brought this up, she was very angry. But as angry as she was, Zhao Rui still had hope for Ningyu. Zhao Rui knew very well that Ningyu would never do something he wasn't sure of. Since Ningyu had chosen to attack, it meant that Ningyu was confident. Ha ha ha, Immortal Withered Crane, you did well. Immortal Bright Dove threw his head back and laughed wildly, then said to the grey-robed warrior, "It seems that joining forces with you was a wise choice. Kill." The gloomy Immortal didn't say much, just one word. Essence creating divine staff. Ningyu injected all the essence chi in his body into the essence creating divine staff and smashed it at immortal withered crane. Now, Ningyu could use 30% of the essence creating divine staff's power. 30% of the essence creating divine staff's power was only enough for Ningyu to deal with peak mid-stage heaven immortals, but not late-stage heaven immortals. The reason why Ningyu used the essence-creating divine staff instead of the mysterious immortal laws was not because he didn't want to kill immortal withered crane and the others, but because he wanted to lure out the mastermind. In other words, in the void in front of the Dao Palace, Ningyu felt an extremely powerful aura. If he was right, the true cultivation level of the owner of this aura should be peak late-stage heaven immortal. Ningyu planned to leave the mysterious immortal laws to this warrior hiding in the void. Red Fiend. Therefore, after smashing the staff, Ningyu immediately shouted in a low voice. Swoosh. The Red Fiend immediately fused with the Red Fiend sword and flew rapidly to Ningyu. Pa. Ningyu held the Red Fiend sword in his left hand and the essence-creating divine staff in his right hand, continuously attacking immortal withered crane and the others. With the essence-creating divine staff, Ningyu could fight against peak mid-stage heaven immortals. With the Red Fiend sword, Ningyu could fight against late-stage heaven immortals. Now that Ningyu had used both the Red Fiend sword and the essence-creating divine staff, he was actually evenly matched with immortal withered crane and the others. Jin Hua would never have expected such a situation. Damn it. Jin Hua was so angry that his nose was crooked. Jin Hua could tell that immortal withered crane and the others had not used their full strength. Otherwise, even if Ningyu had the Red Fiend sword and the essence-creating divine staff, he would still be defeated by 3 late-stage heaven immortals. Should I join the battle? Jin Hua was lost in thought. To be honest, Jin Hua really wanted to join the battle. Since Ningyu had used the mysterious immortal laws to hide the aura of the essence-creating divine staff, Jin Hua could not tell that the essence-creating divine staff was a peak-level mystic treasure. However, although he could not tell the level of the essence-creating divine staff, Jin Hua could tell that the essence-creating divine staff was definitely not weaker than the Red Fiend sword. After all, Ningyu had used the full strength of the Red Fiend sword and only a part of the power of the essence-creating divine staff. Under such circumstances, the essence-creating divine staff was not inferior to the Red Fiend sword. One could imagine that the level of the essence-creating divine staff was at least a peak-level heavenly treasure. It might even be a mystic treasure. Thinking that the essence-creating divine staff might be a mystic treasure, Jin Hua could not contain his excitement and wanted to join the battle. However, Jin Hua's remaining sense of reason prevented him from taking the risk. Who knew if Ningyu had a trump card? Moreover, the martial artist in red that Ningyu had brought back, Immortal Hongling, had not joined the battle. Immortal Hongling's cultivation level was also at the late-stage heaven immortal stage. Jin Hua did not see the slightest hint of worry in her eyes. There were only 2 possibilities for such a situation. First, Immortal Hongling and Ningyu were strangers and did not want to help Ningyu. Chapter 2040. No matter how Jin Hua looked at it, he felt that it was the second possibility. This was because the human demon and the 8-legged demonic beast, who had come with Ningyu, had similar expressions as Immortal Hongling. They did not look worried at all. Let's wait a little longer. Jin Hua took a deep breath and decided to wait a little longer to see how things would develop. In this area, there were many martial artists who had the same idea as Jin Hua. After all, the martial artists who could come here were at least early-stage heaven immortals. They all had good eyesight. Still not coming out. Ningyu frowned as he fought with Immortal Withered Crane and the others. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he did not intend to use the mysterious immortal laws. Especially after learning some secrets from Immortal Hongling, Ningyu did not want to expose the mysterious immortal laws. However, with Ningyu's current strength, he really could not deal with 3 late-stage heaven immortals at the same time without exposing the mysterious immortal laws. Immortal Hongling. Ningyu had no choice but to shout at Immortal Hongling, "Stop him." Ningyu decided to let Immortal Hongling deal with Immortal Withered Crane, while he dealt with Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy. Got it. Immortal Hongling seemed to have known that Ningyu would order her. She didn't hesitate at all to immediately leap up and charge towards Immortal Withered Crane. Interesting. As Ningyu and the others attacked with all their strength, a white-haired old man in the void smiled and said, "You know I'm here, but you still dare to attack. I have to say, you're really bold." "Fine, fine. Since you want me to attack, I'll do as you wish." As soon as he finished speaking, the white-haired old man waved his hands repeatedly and dashed out in an instant. The white-haired old man was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in the void next to Ningyu. Oh no! How sharp was Ningyu's perception? He had noticed the white-haired old man as soon as he appeared. Rumble. However, right when Ningyu intended to utilize mysterious immortal laws to resist the white-haired old man, a rumbling suddenly sounded out from within the Grand Dao Hall. Catcher, catcher, catcher. After the rumbling sound, the main door of the Dao Palace suddenly split open. Chard. The one who enters first will get the opportunity first. My talent is high, let me go in first. Great natural talent, my ass. You're already so old, yet your cultivation is only at the initial stage of the heavenly immortal realm. You don't even have the qualifications to carry my shoes. I'm a mid-stage heaven immortal. I'm going in first. I'll kill anyone who dares to stop me. After the main doors of the Great Dao Hall were split open, all sorts of screams and curses could be heard. All the cultivators in front of the Great Path Hall fought to be the first to enter the hall. Go. Amongst these people was Immortal Withered Crane, who was currently fighting against Immortal Redling, as well as Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy, who were fighting against Ningyu. Even Jin Hua rushed out and entered the Great Path Palace. You're lucky. The white-haired old man glanced at Ningyu, then leaped out and rushed into the Great Path Palace. Fart. Fart. Unlike the others, the white-haired old man casually attacked with both hands as he rushed out. Those cultivators who were unlucky enough to be attacked by the white-haired old man died on the spot. Gasp. The sudden and tragic deaths of so many experts caused the surviving heaven immortals in the surroundings to suck in a breath of cold air. These dead experts did not even get to see the face of their enemy before they were mercilessly killed. How could the remaining cultivators not be shocked? In fact, these cultivators even paused for a moment and did not continue to move. Swoosh. The white-haired old man turned into an afterimage, and in the blink of an eye, he entered the Great Way Palace. Swoosh. After the white-haired old man entered the Great Path Palace, the surrounding heaven immortals heaved a sigh of relief and rushed out again. Not long after the front door of the Great Taoist Hall opened, the originally noisy crowd in front of the Great Taoist Hall instantly quietened down. In just a few seconds, there were only a few martial artists left in the entire area. The human demon, the eight-legged demon, the five-fingered immortal, the red ling immortal, and Zhao Rui. Zhao Rui did not follow Jin Hua into the Great Path Palace. She chose to stay where she was. The reason Zhao Rui chose to stay was that she seemed to have sensed a terrifying aura from Ningyu. Zhao Rui was different from Jin Hua. In the Central God Dynasty, her combat ability was not much higher than Jin Hua's. Jin Hua was in the top 50, while she was in the top 30. But her status was much higher than Jin Hua's. There was no other reason. She had an extremely sharp perception towards some powerful things. Why did you stay? Ningyu put away the essence-creating divine staff and the red demon sword, walked up to Zhao Rui, and asked, "The Great Path Palace has a huge number of heaven immortal laws. If I go in late, I might not be able to obtain them. I'm not interested in heaven immortal laws." Zhao Rui shook her head and said, "According to my memory, there should be a path in the depths of the Great Path Palace, and that path leads straight to a high-level plane." Upon hearing this, Ningyu could not help but take a few more glances at her. Although Ningyu and Zhao Rui had been in contact for a long time, what Zhao Rui said made Ningyu look at her in a different light once again. He had only learned about the path of passage after threatening Red Ling Immortal. From what Zhao Rui said, she seemed to be very familiar with the path of passage. You should be from some super force, right? Ningyu stopped in his tracks and stared at Zhao Rui. Zhao Rui did not deny it. Instead, she nodded and answered, "I'm from the Central God Dynasty." Central God Dynasty? Ningyu frowned slightly. For some reason, he felt that he had heard of the Central God Dynasty somewhere before. I'm from the Central God Dynasty. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to think of something, and a look of surprise came over his face. When Shu Ying left with the little Kailin, Human Devil had suspected her identity. Human Devil had said that Shu Ying was most likely from the Central God Dynasty, because only the peerless geniuses of the Central God Dynasty could easily erase the five-fingered immortal's mark in the five-fingered divine elixir. How could Ningyu not be surprised when Zhao Rui said that she was also from the Central God Dynasty? You know about the Central God Dynasty? Zhao Rui frowned slightly, but on second thought, she felt that it was only natural that Ningyu knew about the Central God Dynasty. After all, Ningyu had several experts from high-level material planes around him, such as Human Devil, Redling Immortal, and the Five-Fingered Immortal. Don't worry about whether I know about the Central God Dynasty or not. Let me ask you, do you know that there is a little golden-haired girl named Shu Ying in the Central God Dynasty? Ningyu asked hurriedly. Ever since Shu Ying left, Ningyu had not seen her again. Ningyu had not forgotten what Kuan, the expert who owned the Tower of Yuzuan, had told him to ensure Shu Ying's safety. Now that he had a chance to learn about Shu Ying, he naturally had to ask about her seriously. A little golden-haired girl? Shu Ying. Chapter 2041. You didn't. Ningyu frowned. He had already guessed Zhao Rui's answer. After all, Shu Ying had been staying in the Tower of Yuzuan all this time and was very young. Even if she came from the Central God Dynasty, Zhao Rui shouldn't know her identity. Although Ningyu knew Zhao Rui would answer like that, he couldn't help but feel a little disappointed when he heard what she said. Let's go. It's time to go in. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu looked at the broken main door of the Great Dao Hall in front of him, then leaped up and rushed into the hall. The eight-legged monster and the human demon followed closely behind Ningyu without hesitation. He's so calm. Zhao Rui couldn't help but frown as she watched Ningyu's disappearing figure. To be honest, Zhao Rui had a deep fear of Ningyu. She knew better than anyone how fast Ningyu's strength had improved. She remembered very clearly that before entering the Myriad Demon's Ridge, Ningyu's strength hadn't even reached the early stage Sky Immortal level, and it had been very difficult for him to deal with the divine son of Qianlong and the others. But how long had it been? Ningyu had improved his strength to such an extent that not only did he make the five-fingered immortal submit to him, but he also made a late-stage Sky Immortal like Immortal Hongling Bo before him. I have to remind Jin Hua not to get into a conflict with Ningyu. Zhao Rui didn't stay outside the Great Dao Hall for long. Her figure flashed and she rushed straight in. The reason Zhao Rui had such a thought was not because she was partial to Jin Hua, but because she was partial to Ningyu. At least, that was what she thought in her heart. After all, Jin Hua was a peerless genius of the Central God Dynasty. If Ningyu accidentally killed him, he would definitely be hunted down by the Central God Dynasty. Zhao Rui admitted that Ningyu was very strong, but no matter how strong a warrior was, he was still insignificant in the face of a behemoth like the Central God Dynasty. Unless Ningyu advanced to the profound immortal realm, the Central Divine Dynasty would not take him seriously. Of course, just taking it seriously wouldn't change the Central Divine Dynasty's attitude. Therefore, Zhao Rui secretly made up her mind that no matter what, she could not let Jin Hua and Ningyu fight to the death. Hua Lala. At this moment, in the deepest part of the Great Path Palace, many warriors stopped. The reason why these martialists had stopped was because there was a golden barrier in front of them. Hiss. The eyes of these cultivators were fixed on the golden barrier as they involuntarily sucked in a mouthful of cold air. To be precise, these warriors' gazes were not on the golden barrier, but on the golden futon on the other side of the golden barrier. On the other side of the golden barrier, there were dozens of golden futons. On every single golden meditation cushion was a heavenly immortal law. There was even a huge dark golden cushion behind the dozens of golden cushions. On the dark golden praying mat, there were a total of 3 transparent crystal balls. Pseudo-profound immortal laws. It was not an exaggeration to say that each of these 3 transparent crystal balls contained a pseudo-profound immortal law. Of course, only experts whose cultivation had reached the late-stage heavenly immortal realm could discover that the crystal balls contained pseudo-profound immortal laws. As for the other weaker heavenly immortals, they only knew that the laws in the crystal balls were very powerful, but they did not know whether the crystal balls contained heavenly immortal laws or pseudo-profound immortal laws. These heavenly immortal laws are all mine. Suddenly, an early-stage heavenly immortal realm martialist rushed out and dashed toward the golden futon at the front. Trash, the heavenly immortal laws are mine, none of you can snatch them. After this mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martialist rushed out, the other mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martialist bellowed and followed closely behind. It was undeniable. At any time, there would always be stupid people. These two heavenly immortal realm martialists belonged to the most stupid kind of people. Swoosh, swoosh. Since ancient times, stupid people did not have good endings. These two heavenly immortal realm martialists were very fast, but because of their speed, they were hit in the neck by a golden cold light as soon as they arrived in front of the golden barrier. Almost at the same time, the heads of the mid-stage and early-stage heavenly immortal realm martialists were separated from their bodies. Whoosh. The sudden change caused an uproar among the surrounding martialists. Although they had expected that the golden barrier was not simple, their faces turned ugly when they saw the two cold lights that shot out from the golden barrier and easily killed two heavenly immortal realm martialists. One should know that the mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martialist who rushed out just now was extremely powerful and had once killed a late-stage heavenly immortal realm martialist. Now that he was killed by the golden cold light, one could imagine what these early-stage and mid-stage heavenly immortal realm martialists would do. First of all, since they were already here, they naturally would not give up halfway. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. These martialists made a decision almost in an instant. Their figures flashed and stopped behind the late-stage heavenly immortal realm martialists in 2s and 3s. Obviously, they had chosen to rely on the late-stage heavenly immortal realm martialists and use their help to pass through the golden barrier. One had to admit that although this method was very dangerous and the martialists might burn their bridges after crossing the river, it was still a good idea at this time. Let's go. Immortal Withered Crane glanced at Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy beside him. Then, he leaped up, clenched his fists, and punched at the golden barrier. Whoosh. Just like before, a golden cold light shot out from the barrier and blasted at Immortal Withered Crane. Crack. However, Immortal Withered Crane was not like the two martialists just now. His cultivation had reached the late-stage heavenly immortal realm and he was extremely powerful. A crisp sound rang out, and the golden cold light that shot out from the barrier was blasted away. Immortal Withered Crane tore the barrier with both hands and entered calmly. Hurry, hurry. Hurry. The barrier will close up if we wait any longer. Follow Immortal Withered Crane and you'll have meat to eat. Those martialists who chose to stand behind Immortal Withered Crane were very excited at this time and scrambled to enter the gap. As for the rest of the martialists, their faces were full of envy. At the same time, they could not help but look at the late-stage heavenly immortal realm martialists in front of them. After all of them were relying on late-stage heavenly immortal realm martialists. Since Immortal Withered Crane could break the barrier, then the martialists they were relying on could naturally do so as well. Me too. Immortal Bright Dove raised his eyebrows and rushed out after Immortal Withered Crane. Me too. Immortal Baldy rushed out and brought along a group of experts behind him. Ha ha ha, how can I, Immortal Xiongtuo, miss out on such a good thing? Xiongtuo, why don't we have a competition and see who can snatch more heavenly immortal laws? Swish, swish, swish. With Immortal Withered Crane taking the lead, the remaining late-stage heavenly immortal experts naturally would not stay and wait for their deaths. Chapter 2042. Humph. A bunch of trash. When the crowd rushed out, a young cultivator did not go with the flow. Instead, he snorted coldly. This young warrior was none other than Jin Hua from the Central Divine Dynasty. Jin Hua's cultivation wasn't too weak, but it wasn't particularly high either. Late-stage Heaven Immortal. Jin Hua's cultivation was the same as Immortal Withered Crane and the others, late-stage Heavenly Immortal. However, Jinhua's late-stage sky immortal cultivation was very different from immortal withered crane. In other words, 2 immortal withered cranes would not be a match for Jinhua. Not long ago, the reason why Jinhua was at a disadvantage in the battle with the Red Devil was because he underestimated his opponent and did not use his full strength. Once he used his full strength, Red Devil would definitely not be his match. Boy from the Central Divine Dynasty, are you interested in cooperating with me? All of a sudden, Jinhua heard a mocking voice. Humph! Come out and meet me. Jinhua seemed to have known that someone was hiding in the void. He snorted coldly, then clenched his right fist and punched out. Catcher! Jinhua's punch caused space to explode as a terrifying vortex was formed. Are the people of the Central Divine Dynasty all irascible? After the void split open, an old woman holding a walking stick slowly appeared in Jinhua's line of sight. How do you want to cooperate with me? Jinhua restrained the restlessness in his heart slightly when he saw the old woman, and he said in a low voice, at least 2 of those 3 pseudo-mysterious immortal laws on the other side are mine. Even though Jinhua was very arrogant, he had to admit that with his current strength, even if he used his full strength, he might not be able to do anything to the old woman. Rather than becoming enemies with the old woman, it was better to work together for the time being and fight for the heavenly immortal laws and pseudo-profound immortal laws on the other side of the barrier. Haha, I'm not interested in those pseudo-profound immortal laws. The old woman smiled and said, what I'm interested in is the through path. Whoosh. Hearing the old woman's words, Jinhua's expression instantly turned grave. Martial artists who were qualified to know about the Heavenspan Road were not easy to deal with. At the very least, Immortal Withered Crane and Immortal Bright Dove did not know of the sky path. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so excited just now. That was because anyone who knew about the path to the heavens knew that they were abandoned, a group of people who had been abandoned. Of course, this didn't include Jinhua. Even though he knew about the path of heaven, Jinhua was not afraid because he came from the Central Divine Dynasty and had something to protect himself. Looks like I guessed correctly. Seeing Jinhua's expression, the corners of the old woman's mouth involuntarily curled up. The reason why she cooperated with Jinhua was not because of Jinhua's strength, but because of his trump card. Her idea was very simple. First, cooperate with Jinhua, and then wait for an opportunity to snatch Jinhua's trump card. When they reached the end of the path to heaven, she would use Jinhua's trump card to escape. Tell me what you think, Jinhua said calmly. Let's join hands and kill all these martial artists. Then, we'll head for the Skyspan path. The old woman reached out her hand and lightly drew a line across her neck, then said, although celestial immortal laws are few, they can still temporarily increase our strength. Jinhua puckered his lips when he heard the old woman, and he said, in the end, it's all because of those heavenly immortal laws and pseudo-mysterious immortal laws. Hearing this, the old lady's expression became slightly awkward. Jinhua did not care whether the old lady was embarrassed or not. He waved his hand and said in an unquestionable tone, I want 2 mysterious immortal laws, and I want 60% of the heavenly immortal laws. Deal. The old lady did not hesitate and immediately agreed to Jinhua's request. After all, her goal was not to snatch the laws, but to find a way to obtain more of Jinhua's trump cards. A little more laws or a little less was not a loss to her at all. There must be something fishy about this abnormality. Although Jinhua appeared very impulsive when facing Ningyu, he was, after all, a peerless genius ranked in the top 50 of the Central Divine Dynasty. If he was always so impulsive, he would have been killed long ago. In just an instant, he determined that the old lady's motive was not pure. However, even though he determined that the old lady's motive was not pure, he did not act rashly. For one thing, he did not have absolute confidence in dealing with the old lady. For another, Ningyu, Zhao Rui, and the others had already arrived in this area. To Jinhua's surprise, Ningyu and the others did not rush to the side of the golden barrier, but chose to stop and watch. As the first thing we should do after joining hands, I think we should kill Ningyu. Seeing Jinhua's expression, the old lady said, Ningyu is very strong, and he has an aura that makes my heart palpitate. An aura that makes your heart palpitate? Jinhua was slightly stunned, feeling a little incredulous. After all, He did not sense any terrifying aura from Ningyu. In fact, he did not even sense any danger from Ningyu. That aura is very weak and faintly discernible. I hope I'm mistaken. The old lady was not particularly sure. She shook her head and said. Jinhua looked a little conflicted. To be honest, he very much wanted to join hands with the old lady to deal with Ningyu. Even if they could not kill Ningyu, they wanted to teach Ningyu a lesson. But when he saw the cold look in Zhao Rui's eyes, he suppressed the idea of making a move. As a peerless genius ranked in the top 50 of the Central Divine Dynasty, he knew very well how terrifying Zhao Rui, who was ranked in the top 30, was. Although Zhao Rui was special and not much stronger than him at her peak, and Zhao Rui could only exert half of her strength now, she was not necessarily stronger than him. But he did not dare to act rashly, because Zhao Rui's status in the Central Divine Dynasty was much higher than his. In the Central Divine Dynasty, most people thought that Zhao Rui was just a peerless genius ranked in the top 30, but there was still a very small number of people who knew her true identity. The reincarnation of a peerless genius. Decades ago, it was rumored that the third-ranked genius of the Central Divine Dynasty suffered from qi deviation during cultivation and eventually died. According to the investigation afterward, there were many doubtful points about this matter. Jinhua, on the other hand, had learned from various channels that Zhao Rui had not died from qi deviation, but had cultivated an extremely terrifying reincarnation technique. All signs pointed to Zhao Rui, who was ranked in the top 30 of the Central Divine Dynasty, as the third-ranked genius. Therefore, Jinhua took the initiative to ask to descend to the immortal spirit region to help Zhao Rui. I can't let Zhao Rui suspect me for the time being. Jinhua took a deep look at Ningyu and Zhao Rui, then turned to the old lady and said, when those people inside are done fighting, we will strike immediately. Jinhua chose not to be an enemy of Ningyu, so the old lady was naturally happy to be at ease. After all, she did not want to clash with Ningyu too early. Just now, she said that she wanted to join forces to kill Ningyu because she wanted to gain some of Jinhua's trust so that he would let his guard down a little. Chapter 2043. On the other side. After Ningyu and Zhao Rui appeared, they stood still without saying a word. However, their gazes were fixed on the people fighting for the heaven immortal laws on the other side of the barrier. Hell on earth. It would not be an exaggeration to describe the situation on the other side of the golden barrier as hell on earth. In order to snatch the heaven immortal laws, the people who had just joined forces were now on the battlefield. Is the old woman next to Jinhua the one who ambushed you just now? Although Zhao Rui's gaze was also fixed on the other side of the barrier, her words brought up the old woman. With Zhao Rui's keen senses, she naturally noticed that someone had ambushed Ningyu not long ago. If the main door of the hall hadn't suddenly cracked open, the old woman would probably have charged out and attacked Ningyu. Ningyu did not deny it. He nodded and said, just a small fry, nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Hearing Ningyu's words, even though Zhao Rui was mentally prepared, the corner of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. Although the old woman had concealed her aura, it was only a casual concealment. It was only enough to satisfy an ordinary early-stage or mid-stage heaven immortal martial artist. She couldn't hide her aura from these people. Peak late-stage heaven immortal. The old woman's cultivation was peak late-stage heaven immortal, only a step away from the true peak heaven immortal. Zhao Rui knew very well that Ningyu wasn't even a heaven immortal yet. You're a martial artist who isn't even a heaven immortal. Even if you have some trump cards, where did you get the guts to say that a peak late-stage heaven immortal is nothing to worry about? At this time, even though Zhao Rui knew Ningyu's character, she couldn't help but feel a little angry. Arrogant. Arrogant. These two labels were instantly placed on Ningyu by Zhao Rui. If Ningyu knew that Zhao Rui thought of him like this, he would probably spit out a mouthful of blood. He had abstruse immortal laws. Even if the old woman's cultivation was peak late-stage heaven immortal, he was still fearless. Unless the old woman's cultivation advanced to peak heaven immortal, he would be able to win with his abstruse immortal laws. I hope you can still be as calm as you are now when facing that old woman. Zhao Rui said coldly. Then, she moved away from Ningyu, distancing herself from Ningyu. Ningyu's face darkened. A woman's heart was truly unfathomable. He did not provoke Zhao Rui, but Zhao Rui actually showed a resentful attitude towards him. If it wasn't for the sake of concealing the fact that he possessed mysterious immortal laws, Ningyu would probably tell Zhao Rui directly that he really wasn't afraid of the old woman. Shifting his gaze, Ningyu didn't care about Zhao Rui's attitude. Instead, he stared at the old woman with a thoughtful expression. To be honest, when the old woman had ambushed Ningyu, Ningyu had indeed regarded the old woman as his greatest enemy. There was no other reason. Ningyu did not know the exact cultivation level of the old woman, so he thought that she was a peak heaven immortal. Now that he knew the exact cultivation level of the old woman, he naturally wouldn't be as afraid as before. Whoosh! As Ningyu was looking at the old woman's gaze shifted over at the same time. The two collided, causing sparks to shoot out. Whoosh! Whoosh! Almost instantly, two cold glints shot out from Ningyu's and the old woman's eyes. Rumble. The cold glints collided and instantly dissipated between heaven and earth. Her strength is actually so strong. Although it was only a short exchange, and the old woman did not use her full strength, Ningyu was still able to roughly determine the old woman's strength through the exchange. She was infinitely close to the peak heaven immortal. The old woman was very strong. She was only a step away from breaking through to the peak heaven immortal. At this point, Ningyu gradually withdrew the contempt in his heart and began to take her seriously. Compared to Ningyu's shock, the old woman was even more shocked. She didn't attack just now to kill Ningyu, but to probe Ningyu. After probing, she finally determined what the aura on Ningyu that made her heart palpitate was. Profound immortal law. When the old woman found out that Ningyu had a profound immortal law, she wished for nothing more than to make a move immediately and snatch the profound immortal law. But the remaining trace of reason stopped her from acting rashly. Not to mention whether she could snatch the profound immortal law, even Jinhua who was next to her was very troublesome for her. Under such circumstances, she chose to conceal this information. In any case, looking at Jinhua's expression, he did not know that Ningyu had a profound immortal law. Rather than letting Jinhua know, it was better for her to choose to conceal it for now and then slowly plan. Fart. The hurried exchange between Ningyu and the old woman ended with both sides being afraid of each other. But at this moment, the exchange on the other side of the golden barrier had already reached a white-hot stage. As the battle went on, in the end, only 5 heaven immortals survived. Immortal Ku He from the Sacred Divine Palace, Immortal Ming Ju from the Ancient Devil Sect, Immortal Baldi from the Fallen Spirit Sect, Immortal Xiong Tuor from the Abandoned Eagle Dominion, and Immortal Wen Qi from the Tiger Dominion. The cultivation of these 5 surviving martial artists was surprisingly consistent. All of them were late-stage heaven immortals. However, at this moment, Immortal Ku He, Immortal Ming Ju, and Immortal Baldi had joined forces and held 70% of the heaven immortal law and 2 pseudo-profound immortal laws. As for Immortal Xiong Tuor and Immortal Wen Qi, they only had 30% of the heaven immortal law and 1 pseudo-profound immortal law. Both sides were not too satisfied with this distribution. But because the other party was stronger, they did not start a conflict for the time being. It's time to go out. The old woman withdrew her gaze from Ningyu, then leaped up and dashed out. Jinhua did not hesitate and followed closely behind the old woman. Since he had joined forces with the old woman, he naturally had to advance and retreat together with her at this time. But before they set off, Jinhua used the Central Divine Dynasty's unique voice transmission method to tell Zhao Rui that he and the old woman were only pretending and not really joining forces. Zhao Rui chose to ignore Jinhua's message with a smile. After all, she knew Jinhua's character. She did not care whether Jinhua was pretending or not. As long as Jinhua did not start a conflict with Ningyu, she would be very satisfied. Demonic Snake Immortal. Seeing the old woman come over, Immortal Ku He and Immortal Ming Ju hurriedly said respectfully, "We have snatched these heaven immortal laws and profound immortal laws for you." As they spoke, Immortal Ku He, Immortal Ming Ju, and the others handed all the laws that they had painstakingly obtained to the old woman, who was also known as Demonic Snake Immortal. The sudden change caused Jin Hua to be a little stunned. He did not expect that immortal Ku He and the others were the old woman's pawns and would obediently hand over the laws they had painstakingly obtained to the old woman. It should be noted that in order to obtain these laws, immortal Ku He and the others had all been injured. I'm very sorry. Chapter 2044. Jin Hua's expression turned extremely unsightly when he heard Immortal Fiend Snake's mocking words. He had indeed told Immortal Fiend Snake that he wanted 60% of the heavenly immortal laws and 2 pseudo-arcane immortal laws. However, that was under the premise that the two of them had joined forces. Right now, Immortal Fiend Snake had managed to snatch 70% of the heavenly immortal laws and 20% of the pseudo-arcane immortal laws. If he continued to be stubborn, he would not be able to adapt to the situation. Interesting. Immortal Fiend Snake's lips curled up into a smile when she saw Jin Hua's gloomy expression. Immortal Fiend Snake's plan was very simple. She wanted Jin Hua to deal with Immortal Xiong Tuo and Immortal Wen Qi. As for her, she wanted to judge Jin Hua's true strength through his attacks. I'll naturally snatch what I want myself. Jin Hua snorted coldly before he leaped up and charged towards Immortal Xiong Tuo and Immortal Wen Qi. We're willing to offer up our heavenly immortal laws and profound immortal laws. Immortal Xiong Tuo and Immortal Wen Qi said hurriedly when they saw Jin Hua charging towards them. The two of them were no fools. They could sense an extremely terrifying aura from Immortal Fiend Snake. In other words, Immortal Fiend Snake was much stronger than them. Even someone as strong as Immortal Fiend Snake was rather respectful towards Jin Hua and even wanted to hand over the laws that he had painstakingly obtained to Jin Hua. This was enough to show that Jin Hua was definitely not weak. Immortal Ku He and the others had sided with Immortal Fiend Snake, so they might as well side with Jin Hua. Jin Hua was slightly dumbfounded by Immortal Xiong Tuo and Immortal Wen Qi's actions. However, Jin Hua came to a realization after he thought about it. Everyone wanted to live. Immortal Xiong Tuo and Immortal Wen Qi would definitely not blindly make an enemy out of him. Very well. Jin Hua nodded lightly and took a pseudo-arcane immortal law and 30% of the heavenly immortal laws from Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi. Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi also stood behind Jin Hua and glared at Immortal Ku He and Ming Ju. Devour. After obtaining 30% of the heavenly immortal laws, Jin Hua didn't hesitate at all. He immediately tossed them into his mouth and started devouring. Although Jin Hua's cultivation level was at the late heavenly immortal stage, as long as he didn't advance to the Shen immortal stage, no one would complain about having too few heavenly immortal laws. After all, every additional heavenly immortal law he possessed would increase his strength slightly. As for devouring the false profound immortal laws now, Jin Hua didn't have the guts for now. Because even if it was a pseudo-profound immortal law, it was still a profound immortal law. With Jin Hua's current cultivation at the advanced stage of the heavenly immortal realm, the success rate of devouring a pseudo-profound immortal law was less than 20%. For the sake of ensuring that nothing went wrong, Jin Hua naturally had to improve his cultivation first. At the very least, he had to wait until his cultivation had risen to the peak of the heavenly immortal realm before he could devour the laws of the false profound immortal realm. Buzz. Jin Hua's success rate in devouring pseudo-profound immortal laws was less than 20%, but his success rate in devouring heavenly immortal laws was 100%. About 30% of the celestial immortal laws, there were about a dozen or so. Jin Hua only used 3 minutes to completely devour over a dozen heavenly immortal laws. After devouring over a dozen heavenly immortal laws, Jin Hua's strength increased once more. Although Jin Hua's cultivation was still at the late stage of the heavenly immortal realm, his strength had increased by at least 10 to 20%. Buzz. On the other side, the Fiend Snake Immortal wasn't idle either. She opened her mouth and tossed about 70% of the heavenly immortal laws into her mouth. Over 40 heavenly immortal laws were a huge help to the Fiend Snake Immortal. Fortunately, the Fiend Snake Immortal's cultivation was slightly higher than Jin Hua's, at the peak of the late stage of the heavenly immortal realm. Otherwise, devouring over 40 heavenly immortal laws at once would definitely waste a lot of time. Fortunately, The fiend snake immortal only used 5 minutes to devour over 40 heavenly immortal laws. After devouring and refining over 40 heavenly immortal laws, the fiend snake immortal's combat strength had a qualitative increase. If the fiend snake immortal was only half a step away from the peak of the heavenly immortal realm before, then now, other than her aura that had yet to reach the peak of the heavenly immortal realm, she could already be considered as a true peak of the heavenly immortal realm in every aspect. Nurturing a tiger is inviting calamity. For some reason, when he sensed the increase in the fiend snake immortal's aura, these 4 words suddenly appeared in the depths of Jinhua's heart. At this moment, Jinhua was faintly regretting. Before devouring the heavenly immortal laws, he was confident that if he used his trump card, he could go against the fiend snake immortal, and even kill her. But at this moment, he didn't have full confidence. In other words, even if he used his trump card, he might not be able to go against the fiend snake immortal. When he thought up to here, Jinhua's gaze couldn't help but shift towards Ningyu and the others who were at the other side. From the beginning to the end, Ningyu and Zhao Rui's group didn't get involved. Could it be that they don't want the heavenly immortal laws and pseudo-profound immortal laws? Jinhua was puzzled. As far as Jinhua was concerned, anyone whose cultivation hadn't advanced to the profound immortal realm would covet the heavenly immortal laws and pseudo-profound immortal laws. However, the calm actions of Ningyu and the others made him slightly nervous in his heart. You don't want the pseudo-profound immortal laws? While Jinhua was puzzled, Zhao Rui looked at Ningyu and said doubtfully, "To you, if you obtained a few pseudo-profound immortal laws, your strength would at least increase by a few times." Testing me? How could Ningyu not know that Zhao Rui was testing him? If he wasn't wrong, Zhao Rui probably suspected him and suspected that he possessed the true profound immortal laws. However, Ningyu didn't intend to admit it. He shrugged and said, "I haven't even overcome the heavenly immortal tribulation. How could I dare to covet the pseudo-profound immortal laws?" After that, Ningyu glanced deeply at Zhao Rui and continued. "On the other hand, your cultivation is at the advanced stage of the heavenly immortal realm, so you should have the ability to seize the pseudo-profound immortal laws. But I see that you're calm and composed. Could it be that you've already made up your mind? Or perhaps, you possess the true profound immortal laws?" Thump. Zhao Rui's heart jerked when she heard this. She was indeed testing Ningyu earlier, but she didn't expect that Ningyu would actually test her instead. "Why don't we join forces? We'll be able to go further on the path to heaven." Zhao Rui smiled and changed the topic. "This isn't the only path to heaven." "Oh, let's hear it," Ningyu asked. From immortal Hongling, Ningyu knew that there was a path to heaven. Now that he heard what Zhao Rui said, it seemed like there were many paths to heaven. "There are indeed many paths to heaven." Zhao Rui nodded and explained. "There's a path to heaven in the immortal spirit realm, and there's a path to heaven in the devil spirit realm. Simply put, there's a path to heaven in every lower level plane. At first, these paths to heaven don't intersect, but in the end, they will converge and form a huge path to heaven." Chapter 2045. Rumble. Not long after Zhao Rui's voice faded, a rumbling sound soared into the sky. Not good. The instant the rumbling sound rang out, Jinhua and Immortal Snake, who were on the other side of the barrier, paled and hastily retreated. Swish, swish, swish. Immortal Withered Crane and Immortal Bright Dove were no fools. Since Jinhua and Immortal Fiend Snake had retreated, they naturally had no reason to stay. "The path to heaven is about to appear," Zhao Rui murmured as she stared at the golden futon. Boom. Zhao Rui was right. In the blink of an eye, the golden praying mat split open from the middle, and a huge pillar of light suddenly rushed out. Is the path to heaven going to appear? Zhao Rui was not the only one who wore a grave expression when she saw the changes to the golden futon. Even Jinhua and the demonic snake immortal had grave expressions on their faces as they stared at the pillar of light shooting out from under the golden futon. Without a doubt, the entrance to the path of ingress was this enormous pillar of light. However, Zhao Rui and the others did not act rashly. Since they knew about the through path, they definitely knew that before entering the through path, they would have to undergo a test. According to the records, every lower planes test was different. Drip. Time passed by quickly. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. In this half an hour, there were no changes to the huge pillar of light. Are there no more tests? Immortal Snake frowned. If there was no test, it would be a waste of time for them to continue waiting here. But if he were to rush in recklessly and there was a test, wouldn't he have to bear the consequences? You, go over. Fiend Snake Immortal rolled his eyes, grabbed Withered Crane Immortal's shoulder, and threw him toward the huge pillar of light. Devil Snake Immortal's cultivation base was at the peak of the late-stage Heaven Immortal stage, and he was only a thin layer away from the peak of the Heaven Immortal stage. Although Immortal Withered Crane was also a late-stage Heavenly Immortal, the difference between him and Immortal Fiend Snake was not just a little bit. Even if Immortal Withered Crane didn't want to go, he could only brace himself and accept Immortal Snake's instructions. Whoosh! Immortal Withered Crane's body flashed, and he soon arrived before the enormous pillar of light. After staring at the pillar of light for a few minutes, Immortal Withered Crane gritted his teeth and directly entered the pillar of light. Shoo! However, before Immortal Withered Crane could enter the enormous pillar of light, a cold golden light shot out from within the pillar of light. This streak of golden light was very fast, so fast that before Immortal Withered Crane could react, it had already arrived in front of him. Damn it! Immortal Withered Crane's face instantly darkened when he saw the cold golden light rushing toward him. With no time to think, Immortal Withered Crane used all his strength to flee to Immortal Devil Snake. However, the speed at which Immortal Withered Crane fled was clearly inferior to the speed of the cold golden light. In the blink of an eye, the golden light streaked across Immortal Withered Crane's neck. The Withered Crane Immortal stood where he was and extended his right hand, pointing at the Devil Snake Immortal. He wanted to say something, but before he could finish his sentence, his body fell backwards. Bang! Before Immortal Withered Crane's body hit the ground, his head separated from his body and fell to the ground first. Hiss! This sudden development caused Immortal Bright Dove and the others to suck in a breath of cold air. How could they not be shocked? Immortal Withered Crane's strength was on par with theirs, at the late-stage Sky Immortal level. Now, Immortal Withered Crane had been easily killed by the cold golden light, and even his head had been separated from his body. One could easily imagine that the others would not have a good ending either. So this is the test. Immortal Devil Snake stared fixedly at the enormous pillar of light, then waved his hands repeatedly. His left hand grabbed Immortal Bright Dove's shoulder, his right hand grabbed Immortal Baldy's shoulder, and he tossed them toward the enormous pillar of light. Swish! Swish! How could Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy be fools? They'd clearly seen how Immortal Withered Crane died miserably earlier. Knowing that they would definitely die, Immortal Devil Snake still wanted them to be cannon fodder. They would definitely not be willing. After all, according to Immortal Devil Snake's thinking, they would definitely die if they went over. If they fought against Immortal Devil Snake, they would still have a chance of survival. At this moment, even an idiot would know that they should fight against Immortal Devil Snake. Thus, the two of them suddenly turned around in midair and charged toward Immortal Devil Snake. One-line punch! Immortal Bright Dove bellowed. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched viciously toward Immortal Devil Snake's head. Vulture palm! Immortal Baldy spread open his right hand, gathered all the yuan in his body in his palm, and sent a backhand slap toward Immortal Devil Snake. Interesting. Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy's sudden change of heart caused Ningyu's lips to curl up. Ningyu knew that Immortal Devil Snake was very powerful. However, he did not know exactly how powerful Immortal Devil Snake was. Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy's frenzied attacks naturally helped him understand Immortal Devil Snake's strength. Humph! You overestimate yourself. Immortal Devil Snake appeared very calm in the face of Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy. He snorted coldly, and his body shot forward. Bang! Bang! In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Immortal Devil Snake sent out 2 kicks. Although the Devil Snake Immortal's 2 kicks appeared to be very ordinary, they were actually extremely powerful. 2 kicks. Just 2 kicks, and Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy were sent flying. The direction they were sent flying was the direction of the enormous pillar of light. Swish, swish. Just like before. Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy had just approached the enormous pillar of light when two cold golden beams of light shot out. These two cold golden beams of light were very fast, and in almost an instant, they streaked past the necks of Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy. Bang! Wherever the cold light passed, two heads fell to the ground. At this moment, Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy died miserably on the spot. Jin Hua, Immortal Devil Snake, did not care about the deaths of Immortal Bright Dove and Immortal Baldy at all. On the contrary, her gaze shifted towards Jin Hua. Intentionally or unintentionally, her gaze swept past Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi. Immortal Devil Snake's intentions were self-evident. She wanted Jin Hua to send Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi to the side of the pillar of light. I think we can use another method. Jin Hua had an idea, and he said, in any case, whenever something approaches the pillar of light, it will shoot out a cold golden beam of light. Why don't we throw out a few immortal crystals and try? As he spoke, Jin Hua flicked his wrist, tossing out a few immortal crystals. Jin Hua was not stupid. Since the three late-stage heavenly immortal experts who had submitted to Immortal Devil Snake had been killed, he naturally would not let Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi die in vain. After all, the Heavenspan path was incomparably dangerous. An additional follower would increase his chances of survival. Although he was very confident in his own strength, no matter how confident he was, it was always better to have an additional layer of insurance. However, in order to deepen his control over Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi, Jin Hua threw the immortal crystals towards the pillar of light while sending a voice transmission to Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi. If you want to live, then open your mind and let me control you. Jin Hua's possessiveness was very strong. In his opinion, since Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi had submitted to him, then they should open their minds and let him control them. Chapter 2046. Okay. Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi knew their limits. Even Immortal Withered Crane and the others had died to the golden light. If the two of them went over, they would definitely die a horrible death. Jin Hua was willing to protect them now. Even if they had to pay the price of being controlled, they would absolutely not refuse. Because if they refused, only death would await them. Buzz. After receiving confirmation from Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi, two wisps of soul force flew out of Jin Hua's body and instantly entered Xiong Tuo's and Wen Qi's minds. Crack. While Jin Hua was controlling Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi, the few immortal crystals he had thrown out all shattered. The shattering of the immortal crystals meant that Jin Hua's judgment was correct. It meant that Immortal Withered Crane and the others had died in vain. Seeing the immortal crystals shatter, Immortal Fiend Snake's face was as gloomy as ice, and she trembled with anger. Although Immortal Withered Crane and Immortal Bright Dove were not as strong as her, they were still late-stage Sky Immortals. On the through path, she could save a lot of trouble with the help of three late-stage Sky Immortals. Now, Immortal Withered Crane and the others were all killed, causing her to lose three capable helpers. You guys, come over here. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She suddenly turned around and looked coldly at Ningyu and the others, saying in a deep voice, "We've been working so hard to crack the light pillars here, but you guys are actually doing nothing." Immortal Fiend Snake's meaning was very simple. She wanted to drag Ningyu and the others down, and even wanted Ningyu to go to the light pillars. This idea could not be said not to be vicious. After all, no one knew how many golden lights there were in total. Letting Ningyu go at this time would most likely lead to death. Wouldn't I lose face if I go just because you want me to? Ningyu shrugged casually. Think of a way yourself if you have the ability. If you don't make a fuss. You. Immortal Fiend Snake was so angry that her nose was crooked. She didn't expect Ningyu to dare speak to her like this. One should know that her current cultivation level was the highest in this area. How could Ningyu, a martial artist who was not even a fairy immortal, dare to talk to her like this? I think you won't cry until you see the coffin. Immortal Snake looked at Ningyu coldly. Then, he leaped up and rushed out. Immortal Fiend Snake was truly at the end of his tether and decided to teach Ningyu a lesson. Otherwise, Wouldn't Ningyu go against the heavens? Whoosh. Before Devil Snake Immortal could reach Ningyu, Zhao Rui's figure flashed and blocked Devil Snake Immortal's path. I have a way to enter the through path. Zhao Rui's face was expressionless as she spoke. Seeing Zhao Rui standing in front of him, Demon Snake Immortal instantly stopped and floated in the air. Although the demonic Snake Immortal was very unwilling, she had to admit that she also sensed a terrifying aura from Zhao Rui's body. The aura from Zhao Rui's body was extremely similar to the one emitted from Ningyu's body. Demon Snake Immortal was not afraid of Ningyu alone. In fact, she was even confident that she could kill Ningyu. However, if Zhao Rui was added into the mix, then Demon Snake Immortal would have to think twice. After all, there was still Jin Hua eyeing them covetously from the side. Demon Snake Immortal knew very well that once she suffered a serious injury, Jin Hua would definitely snatch the two pseudo-arcane immortal laws from her without any qualms. It had to be said. This group of people had gradually formed a strange relationship. They formed a triangle, and no one dared to act rashly. Why didn't you say so earlier? Demon Snake Immortal took a deep breath and said coldly to Zhao Rui. Zhao Rui raised her head and glanced at Demon Snake Immortal. Then, she immediately moved her feet and walked towards the huge light pillar. Damn it! Demon Snake Immortal couldn't help but curse when she saw Zhao Rui ignore her. However, cursing was just cursing. Demon Snake Immortal wouldn't find trouble with Zhao Rui at this time. What if Zhao Rui got angry and didn't tell her how to enter the path to heaven? Because if she couldn't enter the path to heaven, her years of planning would go to waste. Therefore, to Demon Snake Immortal, she had to enter the path to heaven today. Moreover, she had to enter the path to heaven first. There were many paths to heaven. Every low-level plane like the immortal spirit realm would have a path to heaven. However, there were very few paths to heaven. There was only one in total. Entering the path to heaven first meant that one would have more opportunities to obtain opportunities than others. Nothing bad will happen, right? Seeing Zhao Rui approaching the huge light pillar step by step, the eight-legged demonic beast couldn't help but mutter to himself. Ningyu glared at the eight-legged demonic beast but didn't say anything. After all, Zhao Rui hadn't really made a move before. It was understandable that the eight-legged demonic beast didn't think highly of her. I didn't expect that even I would make an error of judgment. Relatively speaking, the human demon had a clearer view than the eight-legged demonic beast. No matter what, he was a mid-stage sky immortal expert. He could feel a terrifying aura from Zhao Rui. It was no exaggeration to say that as long as Zhao Rui wanted to, she could kill him at any time. Regarding this point, the human demon's heart was as clear as a mirror. Go. What the eight-legged demonic beast was worried about did not happen. When Zhao Rui was still some distance away from the huge light pillar, she suddenly stopped. At the same time, she took out a crystal ball and threw it into the light pillar. I can't believe it. Seeing the crystal ball that Zhao Rui had tossed out, Immortal Snake cursed, his mouth wide open. The reason why Immortal Devil Snake had such an expression wasn't because he could enter the path to heaven now, but because there was a pseudo-profound immortal law in the crystal ball that Zhao Rui had thrown out. To calmly throw out a pseudo-Shen immortal law, this boldness, no, it should be this stupid action, made Devil Snake Immortal very angry. Don't just stand there. If you want to enter the path to heaven, you'd better throw out two more pseudo-profound immortal laws. Zhao Rui returned to Ningyu's side and said to the demonic Snake Immortal, "Throw the pseudo-profound immortal laws in?" Immortal Snake was stunned. She didn't expect this result. However, in order to enter the path to heaven, she didn't waste time. Instead, she gritted her teeth and threw out a pseudo-profound immortal law. And you? After throwing out the pseudo-profound immortal law, Immortal Devil Snake glared at Jin Hua and said, "You have to throw out a pseudo-profound immortal law too." Immortal Devil Snake had lost a pseudo-profound immortal law, so she naturally wouldn't be happy to see Jin Hua. In any case, Jin Hua also had a pseudo-profound immortal law. She would only feel better if Jin Hua threw out one. Why should it be me? Jin Hua's expression was very ugly. He said in a low voice, "Zhao Rui and I are both from the Central Divine Dynasty. We're on the same side. Even if I have to take out another pseudo-profound immortal law, it shouldn't be me, it should be Ningyu. Swish. Jinhua pointed the spearhead at Ningyu. I don't have a pseudo-profound immortal law. Ningyu shrugged calmly and said, so your idea can't be realized for now. Chapter 2047. Jinhua was very smart. Not only did he point the spearhead at Ningyu, he even dragged the demonic snake immortal down with him. He should have been the one to take out the third pseudo-arcane immortal law, but after what he said, it became a matter between Ningyu and the demonic snake immortal. Idiot. Ningyu rolled his eyes, then chose to close his eyes to rest. Ningyu's meaning was obvious and self-evident. Since Jinhua wanted to enter the through path, he had to take out the pseudo-arcane immortal law. Otherwise, he could only waste time here. Furthermore, Ningyu wasn't lying, he really didn't have the pseudo-arcane immortal law. The only law he had was the pseudo-arcane immortal law. He couldn't possibly take out the real pseudo-arcane immortal law just to enter the through path, right? Ningyu wasn't that stupid. I'm so pissed. Jinhua's expression was cold as he clenched his fists, having the urge to attack. However, because Zhao Rui was next to him, he could only reluctantly take out the pseudo-arcane immortal law he had just obtained. Swoosh. With a flick of his wrist, Jinhua threw the pseudo-arcane immortal law into the huge light pillar. Rumble. As soon as Jinhua threw the pseudo-arcane immortal law into the light pillar, an earth-shattering rumble came from within. Let's go. Hearing the rumbling sound in her ears, Zhao Rui stamped her feet on the ground and dashed out. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Behind Zhao Rui, Jinhua, the demonic snake immortal, Xiongtuo, and Wenqi instantly rushed into the light pillar. Let's go too. Seeing Zhao Rui and the others rush into the light pillar, Ningyu shouted to the human demon and the others beside him, after entering the through path, follow me closely. Remember not to get separated. Ningyu was very clear. Even entering the through path required 3 pseudo-arcane immortal laws, so it was obvious that the through path was very dangerous. The human demon was only a mid-stage heaven immortal, and the 8-legged demonic beast was not even a heaven immortal. If it wasn't for the human demon and the others wanting to see the through path, Ningyu would have even let them enter the storage ring. Whoosh. The moment he charged into the light pillar, Ningyu felt a suffocating pressure assaulting him. You too, hurry up and get into the storage ring, Ningyu said to the human demon and the 8-legged demon beast in an unquestionable tone as he sensed the pressure surging toward him. Swoosh. The human devil and the 8-legged demonic beast were not ignorant people. This suffocating pressure was equivalent to the attack of a late-stage heaven immortal expert. Even if the two of them used their full strength, they would definitely not be able to withstand it. Therefore, they didn't hesitate at all and directly entered the storage ring. Be careful, there might be powerful demonic beasts up ahead. Zhao Rui's voice rang out beside Ningyu's ears as soon as the 2 demonic beasts entered the storage ring. Hearing Zhao Rui's words, Ningyu was slightly stunned. But soon, Ningyu felt relieved. As a genius of the Central Divine Dynasty, it was normal for Zhao Rui to know about the situation on the path of heaven. But there was one thing that made Ningyu very puzzled. Not only did Zhao Rui warn him, but she also warned the demonic snake immortal and Jinhua. In Ningyu's opinion, Zhao Rui's warning to Jinhua was understandable. After all, Jinhua was also a member of the Central Divine Dynasty. But why did Zhao Rui warn the demonic snake immortal? After all, the demonic snake immortal had been eyeing them covetously. Reminding the demonic snake immortal was completely unnecessary and unnecessary. But soon, Ningyu understood why Zhao Rui had warned the demonic snake immortal. It's just the path of heaven, not the path of heaven. What kind of powerful demonic beasts could there be? The demonic snake immortal snorted and immediately injected the immortal energy in his body into his ankles. His body sped away, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared from Ningyu's sight. Damn it! Seeing the demonic snake immortal disappear, Jinhua could not help but curse inwardly. He was originally on the same side as the demonic snake immortal. Now that the demonic snake immortal had left alone, he was very angry. Even so, he still had to make a choice. Go with the demonic snake immortal, or go with Zhao Rui and Ning Yu. Let's meet again on the path of heaven. He thought for a second. A second later, Jin Hua made his choice. He glanced at Zhao Rui, then leaped up and rushed out at an extremely terrifying speed. Follow me. As soon as Jin Hua's foot left, Zhao Rui took out a flying carpet from her bosom and threw it into the air. Zhao Rui was the first to jump onto the flying carpet and sit cross-legged. Without hesitation, Ning Yu jumped onto the flying carpet. As for the Five-Finger Immortal and Hongling Immortal, they also jumped onto the flying carpet after Ning Yu. Swish. Although Zhao Rui was sitting cross-legged with her eyes closed, she still controlled the flying carpet and flew forward at high speed. Sizzle. The flying carpet was so fast that the friction between it and the air produced a sizzling sound. Ning Yu did not foolishly ask Zhao Rui for the destination of this trip. After all, he knew very well that there was only one goal for this trip, and that was the path of heaven. After all, there were countless paths of heaven like this, and these countless paths of heaven were like countless tributaries that would eventually converge into a huge path of heaven. The final path of heaven was the main battlefield. Look at the path you're leading. While Ning Yu and Zhao Rui were flying at full speed, in another region, Jin Hua's face was ashen. At this moment, Jin Hua was filled with regret. He regretted not following Zhao Rui and choosing to follow the demonic snake immortal instead. As it turned out, the demonic snake immortal was simply running around randomly. Because the demonic snake immortal was running around randomly, he had accidentally barged into a valley. Jin Hua would not have been so angry if he had only barged into a valley. The mistake was that there was an aura in this valley that made Jin Hua's heart palpitate. Roar. Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar was heard, followed by an afterimage that dashed out of the void. Not good, it's a golden battle wolf. Jin Hua's face darkened to the extreme when he saw the sudden appearance of the demonic beast. The golden battle wolf was the emperor of the wolf clan, equivalent to the purple-gold sky-devouring hound in the sky-devouring hound clan. The golden battle wolf before him was a peak late-stage sky immortal, only half a step away from the peak sky immortal realm. Although Jin Hua and the demonic snake immortal were not afraid of this golden battle wolf in a one-on-one battle, exhausting their stamina in the path of heaven was extremely disadvantageous for the situation after entering the path of heaven. You too, go and test its strength first. The demonic snake immortal said to Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi, his face ashen. Swoosh. Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi's faces turned extremely ugly when they heard the demonic snake immortal's words. Although both of them were late heaven immortal experts, they didn't have the confidence to fight a peak late heaven immortal gold combat wolf. In other words, even if the two of them joined forces, the chances of them stopping the golden battle wolf was only a terrifying 10%. Go. If you can't beat it, I'll make a move. Chapter 2048. I hope you can keep your promise. Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi glanced at each other before flashing out in unison, charging towards the gold combat wolf in midair. Sky Splitter Fist. Thunder Wave Art. Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi did not hold back and used their trump cards in the first move. Sky Splitter Fist and Thunder Wave Art were pinnacle sacred rank martial skills. Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi were late-stage heaven immortals. Pinnacle sacred rank martial skills could unleash their peak power in their hands. Roar. However, facing Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi's attack, the gold battle wolf roared at the sky and dashed forward. Crack. Crack. The gold battle wolf was very fast and arrived beside Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi in the blink of an eye. Its four hooves kicked out and landed on Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi's chests. A crisp sound was heard. After that, Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi were sent flying and fell heavily on the ground. Several of their ribs were broken. Swoosh. The gold combat wolf did not intend to hold back after its attack succeeded. Instead, it continued to pursue Zhongxian. Jin Hua, save me. Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi hurriedly asked Jin Hua for help when they saw the gold battle wolf charging towards them. Given their strength, there was no way they could go against the gold battle wolf. If Jin Hua didn't help them, Their fates could already be foreseen. They would definitely die. Therefore, they were very anxious and hoped that Jinhua could help them. Damn it! Jinhua could not help but curse when he saw Xiongtuo and Wen Qi's instant defeat. Although he cursed, Jinhua did not choose to ignore it. Instead, he dashed out to help Xiongtuo and Wen Qi resist the attack of the gold battle wolf. Swoosh! However, Jinhua had just dashed out a few steps when he came to an abrupt halt in the air. Roar! The reason why Jinhua stopped was none other than the fact that two more terrifying roars rang out. Two golden battle wolf beasts appeared beside Xiongtuo and Wen Qi after the two loud roars were heard. Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as the two gold battle wolf appeared, they opened their bloody mouths and swallowed Xiongtuo and Wen Qi. Gulp! The sudden death of Xiongtuo and Wen Qi made Jinhua's face turn extremely cold and he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Looks like we'll have to use our trump cards today. Fiend Snake Immortal's face was livid, and he said in a deep voice, "Concentrate all your strength and kill a gold battle wolf first." Immortal Snake was very intelligent. She didn't want to deal with two of the three golden battle wolves. For now, she and Jinhua could only work together to kill a golden battle wolf first, then kill one each. This distribution method couldn't be any better. No problem. Jinhua was not a fool. Given the current situation, this was probably the only method that Immortal Devil Snake had mentioned. Kill. Snake Immortal raised the walking stick in his hand and ruthlessly smashed it towards the first gold battle wolf. Seeing Immortal Demon Snake going all out, Jinhua did not remain idle. Instead, he pulled out a silvery white flying sword from his bosom. The condensed blue sword. The flying sword Jinhua took out was called the condensed blue sword, which was a peak stage heavenly treasure. Jinhua hadn't revealed his condensed jade sword during his initial exchange with Ningyu. This was so that he could gain the upper hand in the subsequent exchange. However, the current situation forced him to use the condensed jade sword. Boom! Jinhua and Immortal Demon Snake were both peak stage heaven immortals. How powerful would they be if they worked together? Even though the first gold battle wolf tried its best to resist, it still couldn't block their powerful attacks. Crack! The condensed jade sword slashed the neck of the gold battle wolf, and Immortal Demon Snake's walking stick hit its chest. Almost instantly, the gold battle wolf was killed. One each. After killing the first gold battle wolf, Immortal Demon Snake and Jinhua didn't feel proud. Instead, they looked more serious. Although they had killed a gold battle wolf with one move, their first moves were actually their strongest killing moves. Moreover, compared to the first gold battle wolf, the remaining two gold battle wolves were even more powerful. Because the remaining two gold battle wolves had devoured Wen Qi and Xiongtuo, who were peak stage heaven immortals and had all kinds of immortal crystals and dharma treasures. After the remaining gold battle wolves devoured them, their combat power would increase by at least 10%. No problem. Although he knew it was dangerous, Jinhua didn't retreat. Jinhua knew very well that once he retreated, he would be killed and devoured by the gold battle wolf. Rumble. The battle instantly erupted. Fiend Snake Immortal and Jinhua did not hold back, they both used their strongest killer moves. However, it would be harder for them to quickly kill the gold battle wolf in a one-on-one battle. If this situation continued, it would take at least a few hours for them to kill the gold battle wolf. No, I have to think of a way. Jinhua's eyes turned as he secretly thought of a countermeasure. In a few hours, Ningyu would most likely reach the path to heaven. The earlier he reached the path to heaven, the earlier he could obtain the fortuitous opportunities. Jinhua didn't want to fall behind Ningyu, so he gritted his teeth and forced out a few drops of blood, which he dripped onto the condensed jade sword. Buzz! As the blood dripped onto the condensed jade sword, it let out a buzzing sound and trembled rapidly. The trembling of the condensed jade sword seemed irregular, but that wasn't the case. Trembling wave. The so-called trembling wave was a kind of martial technique that Jinhua had cultivated in the Central Divine Dynasty. If the martial techniques that Xiongtuo and Wen Qi had just displayed were peak saint-level martial techniques, then the trembling wave that Jinhua displayed now was even more powerful. It was only one step away from a true immortal-level martial technique. A half-step immortal-level martial technique. Slash. Jinhua held the condensed jade sword and slashed at the gold battle wolf. Jinhua's sword was extremely powerful, almost reaching the strongest move he could display at the moment. Apart from the peerless trump card that he had brought from the Central Divine Dynasty, the power of Jinhua's sword was the strongest move he could display at the moment. It was even stronger than the move that Immortal Demon Snake had just used. Crack! The powerful trembling wave directly cut off the gold battle wolf's tail. Roar! After its tail was cut off, the gold battle wolf roared at the sky, and then its body kept growing. Berserk! The gold battle wolf was the emperor of the wolf clan, and its berserk technique was extremely terrifying. It could be said that a gold battle wolf with the strength of a late-stage Sky Immortal could very likely increase its strength to the peak of the Sky Immortal level after using the berserk technique. I must stop it from going berserk. Jinhua wasn't a hothead. He knew that once the gold battle wolf went berserk, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, he forced out a few more drops of blood and dripped them onto the condensed jade sword. Chapter 2049. Poochie. In the end, Jinhua spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. This mouthful of blood caused Jinhua's already pale face to turn even paler, as if there was no blood in it. Kill. It could be seen that in order to stop the gold battle wolf from going berserk, Jinhua could be said to have used all his trump cards and risked his life. Capture. Fortunately, after paying such a heavy price, Jinhua finally managed to slash the golden battle wolf's neck with his condensed jade sword. A crisp sound rang out. After that, the gold battle wolf widened its eyes and fell to the ground with a face full of unwillingness. Bang! Its body slammed into the ground. Even until its death, the gold battle wolf could not understand how Jinhua could kill it with a single slash. Puff! Just as Jinhua killed the gold battle wolf on this side, Devil Snake Immortal used the staff in her hand to pierce the heart of the gold battle wolf she was fighting with. At this point, the two stronger gold battle wolves had died tragically. Shio. Shio. After killing the gold war wolf, Jinhua and the demonic snake immortal had no time to rest. Although the battle was fierce, they still won in the end. The three golden battle wolves were all at the late Sky Immortal stage. To Jinhua and Devil Snake Immortal, a late-stage Heaven Immortal's inner core was a huge temptation. Poochie. Poochie. Almost instantly, Jinhua and Immortal Fiend Snake each obtained a golden battle wolf's Niden. This Niden should be mine. Jinhua expressed his opinion on how to handle the last Niden. My servants, Xiong Tuo and Wen Qi, both died in battle to test the golden battle wolf. Therefore, the final inner core will definitely be mine. The demonic snake immortal looked at Jinhua like he was looking at an idiot. He said indifferently, "The two of us worked together to kill a golden battle wolf. No matter what, we should split the spirit core equally." Jinhua and Fiend Snake Immortal didn't want to let go of a late-stage Sky Immortal Niden. "Alright, half it is." Jinhua did not persist. Instead, he swung his condensed jade sword repeatedly and slashed at the last golden battle wolf core. Ka. Wherever the flying sword passed, the golden battle wolf's Niden would be split into two. Jinhua and Immortal Snake Fiend each got half. Go. After obtaining the golden battle wolf's beast core, Jinhua and the Fiend Snake Immortal did not waste any time here. Instead, they dashed away swiftly. After this attack, the two of them became more cautious. Since there was a gold battle wolf, there might be a black gold battle wolf, a platinum battle wolf, or even a diamond battle wolf. In order to reach the path of ingress safely, the two of them were extremely careful. Even if they encountered demonic beasts with low cultivation, they would choose to take a detour. After all, no one knew if there were more powerful demonic beasts behind those low-level demonic beasts. The less trouble, the better. It was best not to cause trouble if he could. This was what Jinhua and Immortal Snake Fiend were thinking. Whoosh! Ningyu, Zhao Rui, and Jinhua had encountered the same problem as Immortal Devil Snake. However, unlike Jinhua and the demonic snake Immortal, the golden battle wolf Ningyu and the others encountered wasn't ownerless. It had an owner. To be precise, There was a middle-aged man on the back of the golden battle wolf that Ning Yu and the others encountered. Ning Yu and the others had solemn expressions. This was because the middle-aged man's cultivation was at the peak late-stage heaven immortal realm. According to Ning Yu's observation, this middle-aged man's strength should be on par with the demonic snake immortal. Whoosh. Moreover, the void behind the middle-aged man suddenly split open, and a group of over a dozen martial artists appeared. Late-stage heaven immortal realm. These martial artists' cultivation was all at the late-stage heaven immortal realm. I didn't expect someone to arrive here before us. The middle-aged man's gaze swept across the huge bronze door in the distance, and then fell on Ning Yu and Zhao Rui. He said faintly, "It's your luck to meet me. I'll give you a chance to live." At this point, the middle-aged man paused for a moment, then pointed at the bronze door and continued. "If you can break the bronze door, I can spare your lives. Otherwise, I can only apologize to you." Whoosh. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, Ning Yu's face instantly turned gloomy. Just now, Zhao Rui had already told him that the bronze door was the entrance to the path to heaven. If they wanted to enter the path to heaven, they had to break the bronze door. At the same time, Zhao Rui also said that the bronze door's defense was very strong. It was impossible to break it with just the few of them. Only the joint efforts of the experts from the path of ingress could break it open. There was only one consequence of trying to break the bronze door rashly, and that was being killed by the backlash. "Why, you guys are not willing?" Ning Yu and Zhao Rui's faces fell into the middle-aged man's eyes, and his face instantly turned gloomy. "Since you guys are not willing, then go to hell." The moment the word "go" fell, two martial artists suddenly jumped out from behind the middle-aged man. Whoosh. Whoosh. Two late-stage heaven immortal realm martial artists, one rushed towards Ning Yu, and the other rushed towards Zhao Rui. Hee, really stubborn. Yes, they don't even listen to Lord Ming Ri's words. They are purely seeking death. Lord Ming Ri is an elder of the Great River sect. If you offend him, you are doomed to have a bad time. The last person who offended Lord Ming Ri had his head twisted off by Lord Ming Ri. More than a dozen martial artists behind Ming Ri looked at Ning Yu and Zhao Rui as if they were looking at dead people. These people all came from the fog spirit realm. Ming Ri unified the fog spirit realm and came here with many late-stage heaven immortal realm martial artists who descended from the high-level planes. Ming Ri naturally knew that Ning Yu and Zhao Rui could not break the bronze door alone, but he still wanted to let Ning Yu and Zhao Rui try to break the bronze door. Because when Ning Yu and Zhao Rui saw him, they did not show the respect they should have. Immortal Hongling. Looking at the two late-stage heaven immortal realm martial artists who were approaching him, Ning Yu glanced at Immortal Hongling next to him and said lightly, "Kill them." Ning Yu was aware of Immortal Hongling's strength. Although compared with Jin Hua and Demonic Snake Immortal, it should not be much of a problem to deal with the two late-stage heaven immortal realm martial artists in front of him. Understood. Immortal Hongling nodded, then moved her feet and stood in front of Ning Yu. Immortal Hongling's meaning was very clear. She wanted to block the two late-stage heaven immortal realm martial artists for Ning Yu. Humph. What a waste, letting a woman help you. Seeing Immortal Hongling standing in front of Ning Yu, the two late-stage heaven immortal realm martial artists snorted at the same time, showing a disdainful look. Ning Yu shrugged his shoulders in response to the taunts of these two late-stage heaven immortal realm martial artists, indicating that he did not care. It did not matter if it was a black cat or a white cat, as long as it could catch mice, it was a good cat. Besides, Ning Yu did not need to do it himself to deal with two late-stage heaven immortal realm martial artists. Chapter 2050. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, Immortal Hongling was engaged in a fierce battle with the two late heaven immortals. Did I see it wrong? Ning Yu frowned slightly as he watched the battle between Immortal Hongling and the two late heaven immortals, feeling a little puzzled. There were two reasons why Ning Yu didn't kill Immortal Hongling. Firstly, it was because Immortal Hongling knew more. Secondly, he felt that Immortal Hongling had some unspeakable secrets. As for what it meant, Ning Yu didn't know for the time being. This person is not simple. At this moment, Zhao Rui's voice suddenly rang in Ningyu's ears. Hearing this, Ningyu was stunned at first, then he whispered, "Did you see anything?" Zhao Rui shook her head and said, "When she attacked just now, I felt an extremely terrifying aura from her body. If I'm not wrong, that aura should be at least a false profound immortal law." False profound immortal law? Ningyu's face turned solemn. But soon, Ningyu felt relieved. No matter what secrets immortal Hongling had, in the face of absolute power, all plots and schemes were exposed. Anyway, Zhao Rui could help him deal with the trouble in front of him, and that was enough. Poochie. Poochie. As it turned out, Ningyu didn't misjudge immortal Hongling. Even though the two late heaven immortals attacked with all their might, they still couldn't cause any harm to immortal Hongling. On the contrary, these two late-stage heaven immortals were careless and were hit in the chest by immortal Hongling. Their bodies flew several feet away and they spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Their faces turned ghastly pale. Seeing that immortal Hongling had easily defeated the two late heaven immortals, Ming Ri raised his eyebrows and stared at immortal Hongling with interest, saying, "Not bad, your strength is a little beyond my expectation. Come here and listen to my command, and I can spare your life. Die." Immortal Hongling didn't seem to hear Ming Ri's words. She chased after him and kicked him twice. Bang! Bang! Immortal Hongling's two kicks landed precisely on the heads of the two late-stage heaven immortals. In an instant, the heads of the two late heaven immortal experts exploded. Whoosh! The death of the two late heaven immortal experts made the faces of the experts behind Ming Ri darken. Even Ming Ri's face was ashen. The reason why the martial artists behind Ming Ri had gloomy expressions was because the strength that immortal Hongling had displayed could easily crush them. Ming Ri's face was livid because he felt that he had lost face. A slap in the face. Immortal Hongling didn't listen to his advice, which was a blatant slap to his face. "You're courting death." Ming Ri was furious. He suddenly exerted strength in his legs. Suddenly, the golden wolf under him roared and rushed out. Roar. Then, Ming Ri and the gold battle wolf rushed toward immortal Hongling together. Looking at the nether sun and the golden battle wolf that were constantly rushing towards her, immortal Hongling's eyes did not show the slightest hint of panic. She turned to look at Ningyu and said, "I'm not his match. Come back." Ningyu waved his hand at immortal Hongling and said, "Leave him to me for the time being. Your task is to delay the rest of the martial artists." As his voice fell, Ningyu's mind flickered, and he took out the red demon sword and the origin-creating divine staff. Ming Ri was not an ordinary late heaven immortal expert. His strength was comparable to Jin Hua and the devil snake immortal. Ningyu did not dare to be careless when fighting against Ming Ri. If it wasn't for Zhao Rui's help, Ningyu would have even used a Xian immortal law. "Okay." Immortal Hongling didn't argue with Ningyu. Her figure flashed and rushed into the crowd. "Let's go together. No matter how strong she is, she's only one." "That's right. With so many of us joining forces, we can even compete with a peak late heaven immortal expert. Kill, kill, kill. Let her know the power of our mist spirit realm." The many late heaven immortal experts that Ming Ri brought with him all roared angrily. As the saying goes, 3 people make a tiger. If immortal Hongling had helpers, they naturally wouldn't dare to be presumptuous. The key was that immortal Hongling's helpers, Ningyu and Zhao Rui, were fighting with Ming Ri. As for the 5-finger immortal, his cultivation was only at the early heaven immortal stage, so there was nothing to worry about. Under such circumstances, they were naturally full of confidence and chose to fight head-on with immortal Hongling. Alive or dead? Although she was fighting with Ming Ri, Zhao Rui still took a break from the busy work and talked with Ningyu. Dead or alive? Ningyu thought for a moment and then said. Ningyu was very clear. With his and Zhao Rui's combined strength, if they used all their trump cards, they could naturally kill Ming Ri. After all, he still had a Xian immortal law, and Zhao Rui should also have a pseudo-Xian immortal law. However, Ming Ri was very strong. Capturing him alive would consume too many trump cards, and he might even be in a weakened state. This was the entrance to the path to heaven. Who knew how long it would take for experts from other lower planes to appear? Therefore, under this premise, it was better not to expose trump cards as much as possible. Arrogant. Ming Ri was so angry that his nose was crooked. He and the Golden Battle Wolf had attacked together, thinking that they would be able to get rid of Ningyu and Zhao Rui easily. Who would have thought that not only would they not be able to harm Ningyu and Zhao Rui, but they would also be at an absolute disadvantage. Moreover, Ningyu and Zhao Rui were still openly discussing whether to capture him alive or dead. Gold Battle Wolf, go berserk. Ming Ri took a deep breath, immediately took out a jade bottle from his arms, and threw it into the mouth of the Gold Battle Wolf. Roar! Roar! The Gold Battle Wolf roared twice to the sky, and then its body gradually grew bigger. Not good, don't let it go berserk. Ningyu's face changed dramatically. Although he and Zhao Rui could still deal with the Gold Battle Wolf after it went berserk, at that time, they would have to use their trump cards. Ningyu didn't want to use his trump card too early, so he had to stop the Gold Battle Wolf from going berserk. Do I really have to use the Shen Immortal Law? Ningyu's face was very ugly. If it was not a last resort, he really didn't want to use the Shen Immortal Law. I'll stop Ming Ri, you go stop the Gold Battle Wolf from going berserk. At this moment, Zhao Rui's voice suddenly sounded in Ningyu's ear. Hearing this, Ningyu was stunned at first, then holding the Red Demon Sword and the origin-creating Divine Staff, he rushed out at top speed. Since Zhao Rui said that she could block Ming Ri's attack, then she definitely could. However, Ningyu knew that time was tight. If Zhao Rui did not use her trump card, she would not be able to stop Ming Ri for too long. In other words, the time left for him could only be 3 minutes at most. Within 3 minutes, he not only had to stop the Gold Battle Wolf from going berserk, but he also had to kill it. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Roar. Chapter 2051. Sizzle. The Gold Battle Wolf's tail was so fast that it made a sizzling sound as it rubbed against the air. The huge tail arrived in front of Ningyu in a flash. Humph. You asked for it. Looking at the tail that was close at hand, Ningyu snorted coldly and immediately slashed down with the Red Demon Sword in his hand. Crack. A crisp sound rang out. Then, the Gold Battle Wolf scurried back and forth in the air, letting out a hysterical roar. Roar. The Gold Battle Wolf was very regretful. Because its tail was directly cut off by the Red Demon Sword in Ningyu's hand. The Red Demon Sword's current level had reached the terrifying late-stage Heavenly Treasure. Although the Gold Battle Wolf's cultivation was also at the late-stage Heaven Immortal level, it was difficult for its tail to resist the attack of the Red Demon Sword. Good opportunity. Seeing that the Gold Battle Wolf had lost its mind, Ningyu chased after it and slammed the origin-creating Divine Staff in his hand. The Red Demon Sword was used to cut off the Gold Battle Wolf's tail, and the origin-creating Divine Staff was naturally used to kill the Gold Battle Wolf. Oh no! On the other side of the battlefield, although Ming Ri was fighting with Zhao Rui, part of his attention was on the Gold Battle Wolf. Especially after seeing the Gold Battle Wolf's tail being cut off, Ming Ri's expression changed drastically, and he hurried over to help. Ming Ri knew better than anyone else. The Gold Battle Wolf was indeed very powerful after going berserk, but its body was very fragile during the few seconds it went berserk. In other words, once Ningyu seized these few seconds to launch a strong attack, the Gold Battle Wolf was likely to suffer a grievance. Damn it, why did it attack Ningyu with its tail like an idiot? Ming Ri couldn't help but curse. The Gold Battle Wolf's tail played a role in balance. Moreover, relying on its tail, the Gold Battle Wolf's strength could be increased by 20%. Now that its tail was cut off, it meant that the Gold Battle Wolf's strength would drop by about 20%. Originally, the Gold Battle Wolf's body was very fragile during the few seconds it went berserk. Now that it had lost its tail, it was difficult for it to resist Ningyu's attack. Therefore, Ming Ri wanted to force Zhao Rui to retreat and help the Gold Battle Wolf. Hee, your opponent is me. How could Zhao Rui give Ming Ri a chance? Zhao Rui smiled faintly and then launched a storm-like attack. Catcher. Ningyu glanced at the battlefield of Zhao Rui and Ming Ri, and then smashed the origin-creating Divine Staff in his hand. A crisp cracking sound was heard. Then, The gold battle wolf fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Bang! His body hit the ground, sending up a cloud of dust. At this moment, the gold combat wolf that was at the advanced stage of the heaven immortal realm died on the spot. What? This is impossible. How could Lord Golden Battle Wolf be killed? It's over, it's over. Even Lord Gold Combat Wolf was killed. We won't be killed as well, right? Humph. Why are you panicking? Lord Ming Ri will avenge the Golden Battle Wolf. The tragic death of the Gold Battle Wolf caused the expressions of the many cultivators fighting with Immortal Hongling to change drastically. A brief moment of panic appeared. It was this brief moment of panic that gave Immortal Hongling a chance. Immortal Hongling attacked aggressively and instantly killed 4 or 5 warriors at the advanced stage of the Heaven Immortal Realm, greatly reducing the pressure on her. Buzz. As soon as Ning Yu killed the Gold Battle Wolf, the origin-creating divine staff in his hand made a buzzing sound. Then, it rushed out and rushed toward the Gold Battle Wolf. Huh! The action of the origin-creating divine staff made Ning Yu look puzzled. But soon, Ning Yu understood. The origin-creating divine staff was not for anything else but to devour the inner elixir of the Gold Battle Wolf. The inner elixir of a demon beast at the advanced stage of the Heaven Immortal Realm contained a lot of energy. Swish! The origin-creating divine staff devoured the inner elixir very quickly. Almost in an instant, it devoured the inner elixir of the Gold Battle Wolf. Even the origin-creating divine staff did not let go of the Gold Battle Wolf's body and directly devoured it. After devouring the Gold Battle Wolf, the origin-creating divine staff instantly returned to Ning Yu's hand. 35%. Feeling the terrifying energy contained in the origin-creating divine staff, Ning Yu's eyes widened and revealed a look of disbelief. 35%. At this time, the origin-creating divine staff could already exert 35% of its power. 30% of the power of the origin-creating divine staff allowed Ning Yu to compete with the advanced stage Heaven Immortal Realm warriors. 35% of the power of the origin-creating divine staff allowed Ning Yu to directly compete with the veteran advanced stage Heaven Immortal Realm warriors. Although Ning Yu could not compete with Ming Ri by relying on the origin-creating divine staff, with the help of the Red Devil Sword, Ning Yu could completely fight with Ming Ri alone and not be at a disadvantage. Let me help you. Ning Yu grabbed the Red Devil Sword in his left hand and the origin-creating divine staff in his right hand. In a flash, he joined the battlefield on the other side. Sure enough, you didn't let me down. Seeing that Ning Yu had successfully killed the Gold Battle Wolf, Zhao Rui nodded with satisfaction and said, I can feel that the demonic snake immortal and Jin Hua are coming. We must kill Ming Ri before they come. Understood. Ning Yu did not doubt Zhao Rui's words. Because Zhao Rui and Jin Hua were both from the Central Divine Dynasty, it was not surprising that they knew each other's location. I want you to die. Ming Ri was furious. The Gold Battle Wolf had followed him to the north and the south and had experienced hundreds of battles, big and small. Several times, it was the Gold Battle Wolf who stepped forward bravely. Otherwise, he would have been killed long ago. Such a good companion was not only killed by Ning Yu, but also devoured into flesh and skin. How could Ming Ri not be angry? You'd better save that sentence for yourself. Before, Ning Yu was not afraid of Ming Ri, let alone after his strength had increased. The 35% power of the origin-creating divine staff had improved Ning Yu's strength a lot. Rumble. In an instant, Ming Ri and Ning Yu were engaged in a fierce battle. Compared to the last time they fought, both sides used some of their hidden trump cards this time. However, no one used the mysterious immortal laws. After all, the mysterious immortal laws were too terrifying. Even with their strength, it was impossible to use them twice in a short time. This is bad. As time went by, Zhao Rui's face became more and more unsightly. It was not because they were at a disadvantage, but because she felt a terrible aura from Ming Ri. There was no doubt that this aura was the aura of the mysterious immortal laws. Zhao Rui was very sensitive to the mysterious immortal laws. If it weren't for the origin-creating divine staff on Ning Yu, which could hide the aura of the mysterious immortal laws, Zhao Rui would have discovered it long ago. Back off. Zhao Rui clenched her fists and forced Ming Ri back with a punch. Swish, swish. As soon as Zhao Rui forced Ming Ri back, two figures rushed over from a distance. Not good. Seeing the two figures suddenly appearing, not only Ning Yu's face darkened, but even Ming Ri's face was livid, and he wanted to run away immediately. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.